you want us to join the Zoom too?
No, I don't think you have to because it makes too much echoing. There was people who mentioned that the other night that when I had mine open, it was too echoey. So I'm gonna make sure I mute everybody or that everyone is muted. I don't know how to do that. Okay, well, we've got a handful of people on here. Okay, we are gonna go ahead and get the meeting started. And I think that they don't have to use a waiting room because they're just joining and I'm not making them join. So I'm gonna well, I don't know how to mute everybody. So you guys know how to do that? Mute everybody. Looks like everyone except me is muted, except Mrs. Bishop is not. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. I muted everyone except me. Except Mrs. Bishop's still not muted. That's all right. Julie, I'm gonna unmute you, Julie. But then you can unmute yourself, I think, or remute yourself.
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Okay, so I've got you on, and we've got a handful of others on. Okay, sorry about that.
No. Ready to call the annual organizational board meeting to order. We have a motion to approve the agenda for that. Second? Second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda's approved.
Julie, can you hear us okay when we make a motion in a second?
I heard Corey just fine. I didn't hear the first.
That was me, Kim.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You want me to turn it, Julie, so you can see the room better?
If you want to.
That might help with the hearing. Okay.
Okay, the first item of business on this is to review our fiscal year 2020 depository statements. We've got a link to those if you want to open them up and review them. You have any comments, Julie? If anything that we should be looking at particularly on those, or?
No, not really. You'll see that it was effective for June 30th, which is our fiscal year end. If I remember correctly, in the general, we had just, I think 1.5 million in there, which is good news. It's always good news, but I expected it to be a little bit lower by the end of the year. So there's a silver lining in the COVID-19, if that's what it is.
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments on the June 30th, 2020 statement?
Doesn't look like.
Hey, do we have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2020 depository statements as shown?
So moved, Debbie.
Do we have a second?
Second, Kim.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to approve the fiscal year 2020 depository statements. Do we have any unfinished business to address with this
Nope.
meeting?
Nope.
Okay. I'll accept the motion to adjourn this organizational meeting.
So moved. Colette.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second, Debbie.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Annual organizational meetings adjourned. We'll now move into the regular board meeting for the month. I'll call that to order. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay. First item then is election of new board president for the upcoming year. I don't need to serve. If anybody else wants to, more than welcome. I'll help them out or that. So,
Say you're doing a fine job, John.
I appreciate that.
I nominate John Northrup. Debbie.
You second. Colette.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I guess we can close the nominations and move on with the election. Do we have a motion to close the nomination process?
So moved. Kim.
Do we have a second?
Colette.
All in favor of closing the nomination process? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, I guess we can formally vote on the election of John Northrup as board president. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Election's approved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, now we need to adopt the procedures, date, and time for our regular board meetings. As you know, we changed that last year to from Monday night to Wednesday night. Has that worked for everyone's schedule?
I've appreciated it a lot, so it works for me.
Okay. With that, I think we moved the time from 7 to 6. Does that work for everyone?
I prefer that time as well.
Okay, it sounds like it's pretty much unanimous that we will continue to have our board meetings on the third Wednesday of the month, 6 o'clock. Unless otherwise published, I think there's a couple times that they
Yeah, spring break,
spring break where there's a conflict, and then like at the budget
I
April
think it is.
meeting, those will probably be like the second Wednesday. We'll have that published. Okay, so do we have a motion to formally approve Wednesdays at 6 o'clock? Third Wednesday, I guess I should say, at 6 o'clock as regular board meeting.
So moved, Debbie.
Do we have a second?
Second. Third.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to establish the date and time of our board meetings. We'll move on to the consent items. Anybody have any questions or comments on any of those?
So the Chromebooks, like, looks like you got 40 new Chromebooks or whatever. But how long are we gonna keep the Chromebooks, or what's the
Is it
the
about a
rotation cycle?
4-year?
4.
Is that right? I'm asking you guys, do you remember? I think
It's a 3. It's a 3-year.
3-year.
Okay.
And we had to order some because we had a bunch of new kids.
Oh,
So
that's-
that was
okay.
a good problem to have, but we did have to order some new ones over the summer or just recently. Julie, do you remember exactly these 40 that we just ordered?
Yep. It was for a lot of the new kids, but we also used the GEARS Act, which is part of the CARES Fund, to pay for them.
Oh, okay.
Like from COVID.
That amount listed there, Julie, I think it was 4,400 for 40 of them. Is that the total cost of them then, or?
Yep,
Okay.
they're 100, I believe 100, I think that's 110 a piece.
Yep.
We did have, so then we also have to pay for licensing, which was on a previous bill. I think off the top of my head that might have been around $1,000 for the licensing.
Yes, it seems like they're getting more expensive, or at least less expensive, I should say, every time, so. That's
Yeah, especially those generally, you know, when you aren't saving them to a local drive that, for the most part, you're saving them to a Google Drive or a cloud somewhere, you don't have a high cost in them.
And then the Flippin' Group, it's like the CARES Act grant.
Yeah,
What is
that's
all that
Capturing
about?
Kids' Hearts. So we were able to use some of the money that's from the CARES Act
Uh-huh.
to pay for the Capturing Kids' Hearts training, because you can use it for like social emotional health and that sort of thing. So we were able to save some general fund money by using some of this other earmarked money. Or Julie, was that the one that we got from the Jasper County, that grant?
That's the one from Jasper County. Maybe you should talk about the sources of where the grant's coming from. Or I can. We have the CARES Act, which for the most part is paying like for our janitorial supplies, all of the extra supplies that we needed. We are paying some of Sarah's extra salary with the CARES Act. We are paying for some technology, but not very much. We also have part of the CARES Act is called the GEARS Fund, and that's more steered towards online learning and the things that you need. Say if we were to go to a virtual environment, or for those kids who chose to do the virtual environment from the beginning of the year, we've purchased hotspots, licensing, computers, projectors, screens, anything technology is really for the GEARS Fund. We also have 2 other grants that I wrote for. We've received one of them, which was I asked for about $19,000 and we got $11,000, and that will help also help pay for Sarah's extra hours. And then we've had to hire some additional employees. We'll use monies for that as well. So, but part of back to that CARES Act or the Jasper County grant, the majority of that is really for social, emotional, mental health issues that you may have. And so that's where the Capturing Kids' Hearts expenditure was able to come in. There were some other things that I asked for that they didn't give us. They didn't think that it met that their threshold of criteria. So, and the last one I've applied for is a FEMA grant, and I've asked for about $24,000 there, and I'm not sure where we'll go with that. I have been jumping through hoops like crazy. I'm filling out forms like crazy, and even after we receive the money, I'm going to have to fill out forms like crazy. So it's a lot of work, and so I'm just not real sure where that one's going to go.
But if we get it, it's like almost $25,000. So it'll be a nice.
Does that have to be used for certain?
For we've earmarked it, Julie, for it's
all those extra employees.
The employees, all it has to be used for
Got it.
COVID related stuff. It's a special COVID FEMA grant that you could apply for. So we did. But yeah, like she said, there's a lot of paperwork that goes with it. We've had how many Zoom or like telecalls, like all these meetings, but I mean, if we can get $25,000, it's worth it, because that's money we can spend on this stuff, you know, the COVID stuff that we don't have to spend out of the general fund that we can use for other things. So.
Yep. So basically the criteria was any expenditures that I didn't budget for in a normal budget. So anything that you could think of that we ended up having to purchase because of COVID-19 that we hadn't already budgeted for. That's what we'll use these funds for.
When do you find out on that one, Julie?
Well, that's a good question. Every day they come back with a new form for me to fill out, and it's the same information in a different way. So I believe it's the middle of December is when they find out.
Like we had to have it filled out by the 9th, I think, and then they had to have it done on their end by the 16th of November, and then we find out in December, but then it has to be used by what, like the 31st or something?
Yeah, it's a little bit, yeah. So, in that $24,000 that I asked for, we won't use all of that by December 31st. But we would use it by the whole year. So that's a few of the extra hoops that I'm jumping through. I had to show proof of actual expenditures up to this point. And then what'll probably happen is that when we get to December 31st, then there'll actually be another sub-grant project in it to ask for those other funds that I've already asked for as actual expenditures. So I think there's going to be additional hoops to jump through as we go through it. So I think we'll get first, we'll find out December 15th, but then we'll probably have to jump through another project or two to get the final funds after that.
Anybody else have any questions or comments on the bills, consent items?
Team chairs, or those, I mean, nice folding
They're
chairs? Like
super
really
nice. Yeah.
Like Collins
They
Maxwell has,
Yeah. Oh,
those kinds.
Nicer.
Better than that.
yeah. No, they just came in today and they do look super nice. They have really thick pad, and we
Right.
ordered. Yeah, Rob will go grab one. We ordered like 36 originally, and then we ordered 6 more.
6 more. There were the Butcher Club wanted a couple, and we thought maybe just a few more in case we had a big graduating class. But
Yeah.
we're gonna reset the gym up, and I can talk about that all.
Yeah, but they look super sharp. So they're purple and they have like a nice padded bag and a padded cushion, and then they have a nice cart that they get stored in. So yeah, it's gonna look sharp.
And we use PEPAL funds to pay for those.
They probably want us to bring them in for board meetings. We'll have to call them in.
You mean they're better than these?
They're pretty nice.
Any other questions on the consent items?
Oh, those are neat. Nice.
We're not nice, but they're ours now, so. it's no way.
Look good.
Here, put so the video can see. You can model it, Rob.
No, but I can just sit right there for a meeting.
Yeah. We should just put the computer on the new chair so everyone can watch.
We don't brainstorm
Does it say bolts on the back?
The back is just plain, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Just
what they're-
it's purple with some like screws or something. So,
Okay. Any other questions on consent items? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved, Kim.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second, go on it.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Consent items are approved. Looks like we have the November Early Learning Center report that we can review. Looks like they're kind of keeping busy, so. Do you know, are they pretty much up to capacity now, or?
I think they're pretty full. I haven't talked to mean, I've talked to Haley lately, but I haven't talked about that. But as far as I know, they're pretty full. Like if it came to the point that we needed to figure out help with like daycare for kids, they were gonna try and help figure that out if it was possible. But she didn't know, she'd have to talk to her board, and there was, interest in somehow working together if possible. But so far we haven't needed that. But I think she said they had a pretty good list for babies, like a waiting list, or like all those joking they call them all these COVID babies are on the list now. So.
Anybody have any comments on the minutes from the Early Learning Center? Okay, we'll move on to public forum. I think we did have one email, didn't we,
Yeah.
Michaelin, that you forwarded to us with some information
From Sue.
from Sue, so.
Julie, I think you were probably on that, but Sue just wanted to share some things with us. So she sent an email just about some online learning research.
Okay, I'll pull it from the email.
Okay. All right. I don't see. Stacia, did you want to talk? Can you? I don't know if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we sure can.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and start now, or?
You want? You guys want
Maybe
to, yeah, go ahead. Yep, that'd be great.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously things have changed since the email was sent out regarding what we're able to do. So I guess at this point, we would still like to proceed eventually once things are lifted and get better, hopefully. So I guess maybe come the December board meeting, we will have more of an answer by then. I was still wanting just to send forms out to parents, just so I have an idea of a number of how many kids are actually wanting to do this winter, if at all possible. So I don't know where to go about that with your guys' conversation of using this facility. Obviously, everything's on hold. I get that. And I would assume parents would understand that also, that it may or may not happen. I don't know. Thoughts?
I think, yeah, if you contact the parents, just kind of like you told, just to kind of judge how many, you're just trying to do that right now. No promises made that you're going to be able to do it, but if we can, you'd like to be able to have a kind of a number anyway. So I think that's good.
But I mean, other than that, did you think the plan that I have set out was something that was feasible, that would be possibly feasible at the time if it ever were to happen?
That's the main thing I was looking at was gym space. January, how that would look for gym space. I assume weekends would be the best options there.
Yeah, it would be pretty open on Saturday, Sunday. Then it would be after 7.
In the weeks. So yeah, if weekends would work for everybody.
Yeah, and I know I'd also talked to Coach Pageant and Coach Hasselbrink, and I was wanting to somehow incorporate the high school kids with this. And I know those obviously would be better options for those kids to even help as well, is on a weekend. So.
How far back do you think you could push, like all of the season, like into February, March?
Oh yeah, I definitely probably just try to go through February, not any later than that. I don't know. We'll just have to kind of see, because then you're getting into softball and baseball again too. So, I'm definitely fine with pushing it back. That's not a problem. I was just trying to start somewhere initially. So, depending on how it looks, end of January, the whole month of February. It doesn't matter. I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens. And if we did weekends, I would definitely only probably do like 3 or 4 weekends, sorry. And I know I talked to Josh Russell too a little bit because initially our wrestling program was going to go and wrestle with the Colfax Mingo program. And that did get started, but then obviously has come to a halt prior to this just because Colfax Mingo went to online learning. And then now with the governor's proclamation, that's changed it again too. But that's something we'd also kind of want to look into later in the winter after the first of the year, with it just being our own kids and just more so some mat time, not necessarily. But I think Josh was going to try to bring some of that up later today to you guys.
I know with the football that they did this, the flag football, I mean, all the kids enjoyed that. I never heard them like, oh, we're gonna play the same team again, or, you know, so I think they all had fun with it, and I think they were just glad to get out and play football, so.
Yeah, that was the fortunate part about it being in the fall where you could actually be outside.
Yeah, as far as, you know, not being able to do big game weekends or anything like that, I think the kids will still have fun at least, even if they had to do it just within Baxter.
Yep. So I guess, yep, that's kind of where I'm at. And I guess I'll just have to keep you guys posted closer to the next meeting if that's what you'd like me to do, or.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think the direction they're headed as far as just keeping it within the kids at Baxter, you know, basically they are in school with each other, so it's not like we're introducing people from that they haven't been around before already. So, you know, I think that personally, I think that's, you know, headed in the right direction, kind of like what we talked about last month. So, get the kids a chance to play a little and develop some skills and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah. So.
Would we be following same guidance as whatever high school sports are with when we're fans or attendees, whatever you want?
Yeah, I said we would just follow the proclamation that was suggested by the governor. And I know when it came to doing a COVID agreement, I actually used the school's agreement and just kind of tweaked it a little bit using our football rec program. So that's what I had used for football, and that's what I will also use for this winter as well.
Sounds good.
I just haven't updated it because it all says football, so I need to just do that. It would just basically state basketball, and then I'd also probably put in that section 5 of the governor's proclamation about, you know, inside sporting events as well. But all this could be, you know, work for nothing here in a month or two anyways, but that is the plan if it were to happen.
Hopefully in a few weeks it comes down.
right.
There's all this stuff.
Anybody else have any questions for Stacia?
No, it looks like a good plan. Thank you for sending it.
Stacia, do you have any questions for us?
Nope. I just, like I said, I think I'll just kind of touch base with you guys closer to the next meeting, and we'll kind of know more from then anyways, and go from there, I guess.
Sounds good.
All right.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jess.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
Okay, do we have anybody else, public forum, that would like to speak?
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay, we'll move on the agenda to business.
Michaelin,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
just checking in to make sure everyone had received the letter from BEA tonight before you moved on. I didn't know if they had a chance to read through it.
Yep, they looked at it, and then we're gonna talk about the hybrid plan in a little bit. But does
Okay.
anything you wanted to say or anything? You don't have to.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know if they had received the letter and just moving on with what you were wanting to talk about then.
Yep, and we will talk about it for sure. We're gonna talk about the hybrid plan. Jason and Rob are gonna talk a little bit in their principal reports about kind of just how they've gathered some information, and then we'll talk through it.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Okay, anybody else? Last call? Okay.
Okay, move on to our business items. First item under that is the building project update. Got the monthly project summary. Got a link to. Michael, do you have anything to
Yeah,
add?
not too much about the actual building. We're still working on getting the lightning bolt. As far as I know, it's not lit up yet. We're still getting the furniture wrapped up. There's where it's scratching the floors. They're still in the middle of dealing with that. They know it's not wrapped up. I think it's kind of wrapping up. I haven't seen Jamie in quite a while, so that's probably a good sign.
The heating and cooling in the 55 and 68, has that gotten any? I know there was a meeting after our last
down there. Remember they were all in Lori's room, that whole group?
Oh yeah, so they were in there and they were working on stuff, but I haven't heard any complaints lately. So
Which I think this time of the year we probably won't hear it. It was when the cooling was
yeah.
needed.
Didn't work today. I'm not sure what the fix was for those, because I popped into that meeting for like 2 seconds and realized I was way out of my league and never thought.
Oh, they were. Were you there? You weren't, were you?
No.
They were pointing fingers at contractor was pointing at installer was pointing at electrician, and Jamie and I were just figure it out. So they're I'll follow up with Pam on that, because I honestly can't. I haven't heard anything, so it's no news was good news. But like you said, it was running the air conditioners.
Then I saw that Dale had canceled the meeting for the training on the snow melt deals. You know what the reason was for that? I didn't know if it wasn't ready yet. I know when one time the wiring wasn't quite done right.
And I've seen some guys up in Rob's or not Rob's office, Angie's office, messing with stuff. So I don't know that it's necessarily hooked up right yet. So
They were here Monday. We lost power for 20 minutes in the main office because of something they did. But I know they left frustrated.
Is this on the north?
yeah, the heated stairs.
I could be wrong, but I'm not sure we have lights on the steps right now. We did, but I think when they were working on don't quote me on that, but when they're working on the heating stuff, now now it's getting darker. I walked out to my car today and I don't remember thinking those was really dark right there.
Okay, I'm
Maybe
making a
if
list.
they're not, email Michael and let
Yeah.
her know so you can
I
get a
can
hold of
follow
story.
up. Yeah, I can send Jamie an email. Jamie and Dale just ask and follow up on these things.
Those items.
I'll let you guys know after I hear back from them.
We did have, I did get an email earlier this week about the bolt sign, and they got all the parts here and ready to install, and then there were some faulty parts. So they had to send those back and reorder new parts.
Those were coming from Mexico, if I remember right, so.
Also, we got the dedication plates put on the benches out there, and we'd like to thank the class of 2020 for purchasing those benches for us. And so they were in memory of Ronan Bundy.
He was actually out yesterday and took some pictures of us.
Oh, was he?
Great,
Oh, that's great.
Or Monday, not yesterday.
thank you.
You want to talk about the complex meeting at all right now, or you want to?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see, who was there? You two?
Yep.
So, Corey and Debbie were there, and Jason and Rob and I, and a handful of community members, and then Story sent 2 architects, and great conversation, and just they did a lot of asking questions, and what were our needs, what are our wants, what has to be replaced right away, what can be long term. And then they are going to put together a couple of proposals, and then we meet back December. Did we even set a date? I think it's early December.
Yeah, they mentioned early.
And then they'll present like 3 or 4 plans, and then that group can look at them and talk about them and talk about parts they like and parts they don't like, and then they'll take that back to the drawing board, and so then they'll present something back to us that we can then share out. Is that kind of Jason, Rob, anything you guys want to add?
Is it for certain events or like a building out there, or?
It's kind of the whole thing,
Kind
not
of a master
Master
plan.
plan.
Gotcha, okay.
like creating a wish list,
Yeah.
short-term and long-term.
Yeah, so things like within next year would be like the dugouts, press boxes, that kind of stuff. Kind of high priority be bathrooms. They kind of, say within the next 2 years, then 5 years, 10 years. So hopefully they can kind of mash all that together somehow.
So as we go.
And just have a plan, because like we just spent quite a bit of money on baseball field, like doing some work out there. And then in hindsight, the architects were saying, well, it would really be great if your 2 home plates were facing each other. So like baseball and softball, and you could put one nice press box in the middle, and they would go out that way. But we're like, well, if we would have had like a master plan, that would have been a great idea. But since we didn't, we just used what we had. But they just have a whole fresh set of eyes that we didn't even think about. So so just in long-term planning, it'd be great to have this master plan so that we put things in the right place and we do it in the right order and that sort of thing.
I have wrestling down on mine.
Oh,
Maybe
yes.
This is a good time to bring that up.
That's a great time.
Out there. So, had multiple conversations with multiple people in the last week and a half about wrestling.
So have I.
And we know that we're not in a great situation trying to share that gym. We got very, very lucky right now. Spent no junior high sports for a while and no rec. So it's working, and they're still, they just want their own space, and I will support that. If you're going to have a wrestling program, just sharing a space for a million reasons isn't going to work. So we talked about something out there. I'm starting to get hesitant, because then that would become in front of the bathrooms, and now we're talking, I don't know what kind of dollars, and is that going to be the first thing we put out there? So had 2 parents associated with the wrestling program approach me about brainstorming and looking at ideas. The idea that was approached the quickest and the loudest was about areas out at the bus barn, whether that's the slab that was already poured, figuring out a different chance for the buses, and then it moved into the place that's already heated with bathrooms, with plumbing. I've had people tell me, right or wrong, that they could get that to a wrestling room. They would get everything donated, they would do all the labor and have everything they need and could get that done in a week. If we would just, if that bus barn
Like
stopped.
where we park the
So
vans
then
right
the answer
now.
right now would be vans and going into the winter with vans and Suburbans. So I hear them. To me right now, with everything on hold, I have a feeling we're gonna hear more bad news this week after the football finals are done, that I just wouldn't, you know, we have a plan at least to Christmas or close to that, and maybe even longer as far as practice. The issue is people are having to practice in the morning and they're going to wrestling events at night and turning around right back and have the only time they have because of junior high games, and we're making it work. I inherited the gym. I mean, when Lori left, that was already the plan. It probably was the best plan. I don't know. I didn't look into a lot of plans. I mean, that's out because of COVID. This was out with the furniture and things that we put in there, plus the cleanliness of that would not be a great situation. So I don't have any great answers, but I know there's a lot of concern amongst the wrestling team, program, parents. And, you know, we're in a tough time with the COVID, but that was approached to me. I said I would again bring it up with the board. You're solving one problem, maybe to have another problem, which is where you're gonna park either buses or your vans and Suburbans, but they seemed like they could make that work and be a permanent fixture for the wrestling, which then would not be a part of that plan out there, which then would allow you to not have to have that piece of it, so.
So they'd be happy out in here.
They would, the people that talk to me, which are the major wrestling people, would choose to be there than anything that they're sharing, signing up for. We just want a wrestling room.
Because out of that complex, I think the ones that talk to me, that's great out there. You're still sharing it, right? You're still rolling up your mats at night and putting them out of the way so rec basketball can come in and use that space. And so, they're seeing it as their space. They don't got to bus the junior van, their junior high kids out in the middle of the winter to practice out there. They can just walk across the street and practice. There's a lot of.
I heard multiple times, we've been promised this since the split, that we've had this is now our 4th year of no wrestling room. And I said, this is my first time in this position, and we will have it fixed for next year. We have a plan for this year. If we can come up with a better plan this year, I'm all up for it. But we can't have them wrestling in the gym next year. It just can't. So either you're going to look at sharing wrestling where we don't have to have a space, or we're going to find a space for them somehow, some way. So that was just approached me. I said I would share it again about the bus barn. I don't know if tonight's the night to have those types of conversations, but I did say, as adamant as they were, and rightly so in many of their concerns, I would at least bring that up.
I guess I wouldn't say we've ever promised their own space. I think we'd said we try to make space work here, which I think we've tried to do, but I don't know if we've ever promised to say, hey, here's a building, or here's a gym for you.
I
don't think we've
I
ever said
didn't
that.
promise that, but
Right.
maybe other people.
But I'm just saying, I just wonder.
Yeah.
Right.
No, the board had never promised that. They told me, and I assumed they meant the athletic director before me, had promised, we'll get this fixed, and they just have heard it year after year. And I listened. I get it, but I'm in a fix mode, not a listen to complain mode. So let's get on the other side. That's when they came back to me the second time and said, here's a plan. Okay, that's it. And if you're talking no money out of the district, then you're gonna do it all. I just need to at least share that, and I don't know what the answer to our other bus barn, somebody else talked about the slab, but that's a whole nother, if we just were relocating the buses, you'd have to enclose that, you'd have to do heating and bathrooms and, all of that.
And the buses don't have to be here at the school. There's a lot of districts that your buses are not at your school. There's like a separate place that parks your buses. I'm not saying we should not have our buses here. I'm just saying that they don't have to be.
I think what you're saying though, Rob, is the buses, it really wouldn't affect where the buses are. It's a cemented area. Right.
The cemented area where
Where the vans or the Suburban.
That's where the second plan was. Well, we already have heating, we already have bathrooms.
Right.
It's definitely a space that we could roll mats out, we could make that ours. I haven't talked to Kevin or Deb or truly do any due diligence to anybody to know what that space is really used for, other than parking 3 vans in a Suburban, the little white one, 2 silvers and a Suburban, right, 4 indoors. That's all I know it's used for, but somebody may come say, hey, wait a minute, you haven't thought about this, this, and this, which I don't know that. But, if that's a fix and we just have to figure out where to park 4 vehicles, that to me would make more sense to a starting point of, again, I'm not saying we have a plan for this year. It's not a great plan, but it's a plan. Next year wouldn't work with the way I think things should go in the fall with everything back to that. That's gym will not be a great plan in a year.
What's
It is.
the building that you had mentioned at the last board meeting that's across the street from the complex?
Oh, the water treatment building there. I don't think that's probably big enough for mats.
I was talking more for parking.
Oh,
For
yeah.
vehicles. I didn't know.
I guess I'd like to see what, you know, what that would look like if, over at the bus barn. And then I keep thinking, I've never been in where the old concession area was. I don't know what, I think it's just crap stored in
Yeah,
there.
it is.
It's like, can we put a garage door in there and at least maybe park 2 vehicles inside there?
And
You
is there a
know.
bus that we're not using that's undercover or?
Everything that, I asked that today, so I think we have 4 that, this isn't the same spot, we're talking about, that's,
Right.
but I believe there's 3 route buses and then the number 1 activity bus. Those are the 4 that are there in that enclosed space.
And that's all the space that we have available
For
in
the-
there.
And that's,
It's
that
that
would
spot.
take a major overhaul
Yeah,
to make
okay.
that a wrestling, not maybe a major, I
Oh, yeah,
don't
there's no concrete.
I'm
That's
just
all
talking
dirt.
more for parking for vans and stuff.
Like the vans
Yeah,
could fit
so
in
the
there.
vans could go, those vehicles could go there and then your buses park somewhere else or just.
Okay.
I mean,
I just didn't know if there's any more room for parking in that bus area.
And the shop is full, is that what you said? Like,
The egg shop.
or the egg shop?
Yeah, I didn't talk to Todd. I mean, there's kids around all of that. Could you limit that whole space? I'm sure you could. I don't know. I need more time to really talk to him and look at how we're using the space. You couldn't get 4 vehicles in that space, so you could get 1 or 2 and document it out probably.
Do we use all 4 of those vehicles?
At times.
Yeah,
But some are much more used. There's one older silver van that's kind of that last.
Blue van.
Blue, silver, I said 2 silver, so it's a blue, silver, white, and the Suburban.
I believe so, yeah.
We took the silver to football, so I know that one.
And the blue one, I know they were picking.
They use that for,
That-
to pick
is
up
that special
some
route?
kids, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Summer, no, it's not special ed, but they pick up some kids in it.
They're all used,
Okay.
some a little bit more than others.
That's all I.
I mean, you're probably, I don't know, my take, probably want to keep your route buses undercover.
Right.
Only because then you're not deep thawing them when snow and
Right.
ice, so if you keep those undercover. One thing to thaw a van, you let it run for 5 minutes, but like
Right.
less in the morning, you're letting the thing run for a long time, you know, trying to heat it up and stuff, so you probably want to keep those in the big part of it. And the vans and Suburban and stuff, figure out a different solution for, but if that's the
If that's-
option.
that's what-
I mean, I was in there at 5:30 yesterday morning, heat's running in there. You know, I mean, it could be a
toasty,
decent
yeah.
wrestling place, especially if, like, if I was remodeling it, it wouldn't have those big garage doors. Those would be framed in and insulated in, and then that heat's much more efficient, because it was fairly warm in there with no insulation, you know, I mean, you know, giant garage doors and whatever, so. And a ceiling that's 25 feet high, you know, so it's, I mean, there's ways that I think you can make it much more efficient, warmer, and a great place with the concrete, you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess that's what I'd like to see, you know, is if they want to pursue, you know, walk through it with us or what, you know, just tell us kind of what they're thinking.
That's what I
That's
said.
What I'd like.
Even
to-
starting with me, I said we just need to
Yep.
have a time to what, you know, not that that's my forte, but I could understand what you're seeing, thinking, you know, I appreciate their, problem solving the second or third time I met with people
Right.
instead of meeting, so they had a plan, we can make this work, and I said, well, we need to walk it together.
Well, and also, we have Jeff and Andrew coming Friday, the architects from Story. And that was part of the conversation, because wrestling came up during the complex meeting. So, I mean, I could always say, could you take 2 seconds and come over and walk over here with us? And, because they're not hired to do the work, the actual, like, remodeling the wrestling room. But they could say, yeah, that would work, or no, that's not gonna work, or they could at least give us a unbiased professional opinion if that's gonna work or not.
Yeah, my bigger concern, I think, is we get very far down the road in those conversations, and I know we've hired them, so they're gonna be presenting us drawings. I believe it would look different whether you tell them wrestling is gonna be in that space or wrestling's
Right.
not gonna be in that space, so, you know, it's not like, well, I mean, we have people working on this that we probably should give them direction on that.
But we don't give them direction before Friday.
No.
I mean, I think we could at least have Jeff and Andrew
Absolutely.
Like, because if they're like, oh yeah, that would totally work, then that changes their work out there. Like, we don't need them to build us a wrestling room out there because we're gonna build it here. So,
And I
Okay.
wonder too, then, do we need to figure in some sort of vehicle storage out there with part of this?
right, so it'd probably be
That's
smart to have them in the
When
conversation.
we talked about rebuilding on the slab out there for mowers and stuff, I don't know what that cost is. Can you make it a little bigger and park the vans in Suburban there with the mowers?
We can put the mowers kind of east-west and then build
We were
it from
talking about that,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, we talked about that today a little bit.
Might be have to,
I didn't want to get bogged down there, but it's kind of, it's
Mhm.
pretty prominent for me right
Right.
now. I mean, that's a pretty hot topic, so.
And it's timely too, with those guys coming Friday. I mean, we may as well, if we're gonna have a master plan, let's put together
that's
a
the
master
kind of what we're
plan.
trying to stay
Yeah.
away from is 3 years from now, oh man, we need
Oh,
to spot
we
parts
should've-
lanes.
why didn't we do that?
Yeah.
Well, now we can't, cause it's butting right up to the bathrooms.
Right. Okay, so I'll put that on the list too, to talk to Jeff and Andrew, on Friday.
Okay, anything else under building project? Move on to principals report. Jason, you want to go first?
Sure. So, well, it's 2020 and every day seems like a new adventure. So, just kind of recapping, I think on a really positive and truly, I mean this, we're trying to find our way with hybrid now, right? We've been trying to find our way in just about everything. Because in our building, for example, we want to continue our ESSA work. We want to continue to grow kids. Our school improvement plan is alive and well. And so I just really want to say that proud of our teachers for their efforts. Our WIN plans we're trying to do everything we can with WIN. Obviously, hybrid kind of throws a little wrench in that because we're getting kids every other day for those types of interventions and work. But we're finding a way, and we're trying to make it the best we possibly can. So our kids, it is a bit of a challenge. It was really interesting to me. We always talk about social emotional learning and what COVID is doing to people. Day one, we had kids. I had multiple kids in my office, stopped me in the hallway, one in tears, one angry, one just contemplating, upset about the fact that their friends aren't in school with them, because half their friends are here and half their friends are there. They're just trying to figure it all out. And so our teachers have done a really great job with relationships, being aware, great still to have our counselor, Amanda, who sees us every day, half day every day, which is, I think, a better plan this year. She's very busy with guidance and everything that way. So, yeah. Parent-teacher conferences online was from what I hear, a success. I mean, it felt a little weird for me. It felt almost intrusive to walk in on someone's Zoom meeting and try to listen, whereas I would walk into any conference and not really care. But so kind of let it go. I had a lot of parents tell teachers and myself that we're going to do them this way every time. This is so much better. They could sit in their living room couch and have a quick conference and call it good. So yeah, so I thought that was very positive. I wouldn't say we were 100%, but we had really good turnout. There were a couple that we didn't get signed up, but I know teachers are working hard to finish those off. And then I guess the one other thing I would share, I just want everybody to know that we have put a ELA reading adoption team together for a resource. So our estimate from last year that came late, third quarter-ish, carried over into this year. And then I received an email or a phone call from the state asking how I was going to spend our money. And I kind of thought it was that money, and then got to digging and getting the budget put together and realized they actually sent us this year's money too. So we had twice as much money. And so there's no guarantees that money sticks around if you don't spend it. So I think it's pretty important that we try to move forward with ELA adoption faster than we really want to. So we spend a great deal of time, put a team together. Josh Russell is spearheading that effort with me. We're talking through things, and he's really kind of taken that over, working with the AEA. I'm going to call it a fast to slow model because the money's here to buy something. So we're putting our time into the research on that, trying to find evidence-based resources, visiting with the AEA, other school districts, and this team of teachers and we'll try to get that money spent and get that purchase. However, it's a much greater group. I see it kind of on a 2+ year plan. So there's no hopes that resource will actually be fully implemented for not till the start of 2022-23 school year. So what's going into this? Josh is doing a lot of work. A lot of discussion around philosophy and beliefs of teaching reading and ELA instruction. We're going to spend a great deal of time examining our instruction in our classrooms, things that teachers feel that they're really super solid on, things that they feel that they need professional development around, and then start to build that, really start to build that part of it so that the resource can support that. But the key, the important piece is going to be that instruction, that professional development, that really trying to improve what we do with that ELA instruction. So we have a pretty good plan in place. The team's getting ready to meet again here soon. We've surveyed the staff on their instructional strategies. So Josh is gathering that data. DAA has been very, very, very supportive and a part of those discussions, and they think we have a really good plan in place. And so, yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good. We're pretty excited about it. So it's good to have money, but it doesn't feel good when you feel like you have to spend it. You know, you want to make sure you spend it the right way, and so that you're a good steward of that. So we're gonna do our time in that. It's gonna be quick, but it's what's after, I think, that's gonna have the greater impact. And other than that, I guess we can kind of ultimately get to that. I'll let Rod talk about his little things, but we're going to talk about our hybrid options at this time. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
You want Rod to just share his general stuff first?
And then
have
we'll
a big
just talk,
discussion about
yeah,
hybrid?
that sounds good.
Perfect. Okay.
Most of mine is around COVID, but I'll start with, I think most everybody saw, we've got our vinyl up on the walls, our word wall in the commons, and the sign in the office, and the home of the Baxter Bolts, the prominent side opposite the Baxter Public Schools. Really pleased with the job they did and how it looks. I think it really added. It wasn't so much like we kind of did in the old building to, spruce it, but it was enough to really, and a lot of it, it's not athletic bound where you had a lot of that. This was more just about Baxter and Bolts and school pride. So that was awesome. It just seems like it's been constant, the AD stuff from the COVID side. So the new governor's statements this week put a firestorm in things. So I received, before we wanted to, I was receiving lots of negative email how I could stop junior high sports. So I didn't stop junior high sports, but it was going. So then we put out, which you probably saw, we blasted to everybody in JMC, every teacher, every student, as well as we could explain it without even having our conference meeting today, kind of what it was going to look like. But we all know now, I mean, that was the proclamation from the governor. We didn't obviously stop junior high sports. With that, it's trying to navigate the high school guidelines. So we spent 2.5 hours today in the conference Zoom. We know that how we're going to handle it is two spectators per participant at that level. So if you have a junior or a JV girl and that's all you have, you're going to have to leave the gym after the JV girls game. So we talked about the protocol there. If it's truly clearing the gym out, if it's just an announcement that says anybody who doesn't have a spectator, it's easier for when you're at home because we'll kind of know the families that should be leaving. We don't know from the other side who actually, but to get in, you'll have 2 passes that each athlete, even when we get junior high bag going, every athlete will have 2. It's on them to give those to who they want them to be. So it could be parents, it could not be parents. We understand the blended family. We spend a lot of time on that, but we're going to put that on the family entity. You have 2 passes. So they have to show them to get in the gym, pay their $5 or their activity pass, and then get in the gym. So that's and all spectators will be masked at all times. Outside of possibly eating or drinking, so there was a long, it just seems like everything gets the line drawn today. We spent way too long on concessions. Some people are like, I don't care that they take their mask down to eat and drink because it's more important we spend money at the concession stand, where the other half of the conference was like, we don't want that because that's a way to make sure everybody's masked up. So we're going to make them eat in our commons and drink in our commons. No food and drinks coming into the gym. We've not made that decision here. Zach and I spent a little time discussing, but we want to visit with the Booster Club probably more than anybody. So Tracy and I have been in a little conversation. We'll have more. The school bought gaiters for every athlete from junior high all the way up through high school in every sport, as we want our athletes to be masked during practice the best we can. We're not mandating that, but we've explained to all the coaches, if they're not, the chances of contact tracing back become much greater. So you just need to navigate your practices. I've been down to all practices today, Monday. I would say 70% masked and using them correctly, and that's not too bad between wrestling and varsity girls and boys. I think there's times that coaches think they're all masked up, but the kids are still pulling them down, and that's just what we'll have to battle. But I think they all understand, and I commend the coaches. It's not like it was for football. That's a much more challenging situation we're in right now. So we'll continue to communicate. We'll continue to get everything out. I know that's what everybody's focused on right now, what's happening next. We don't know what's happening next. But again, I definitely don't ever want to put the cart before the horse. I feel like that it could be 5 days. We're going to get new guidance again. I mean, we've got schools wanting to reschedule junior high right now. And I'm just saying, can we just put a break? Why do we want to get a game on December 20th and change the officials? And we may hear in 5 days that we're going to Christmas break. We'll get there. I think we have just some people that are, on the other side. So I'll start. That was in questions on the sports side of things at all, or what you're hearing.
Is there a reason middle school isn't allowed? Same thing as baseball. It's like, I don't understand why high school is cool and middle school. Is it because of the associations and unions?
Governor Reynolds.
Because, well, Monday night, I sent in I don't know what you call an email, or I don't know, on their governor page, just asking, but of course, probably won't hear anything.
So I spoke to both Mr. Keating and Mr. Ross, so the heads of both unions yesterday for a while, just to be really clear on everything, because it was a little muddy about junior high, and then she had to come back out and be very clear, because when she stopped the first presser, it was high school sports and then no youth sports, but they didn't really talk about other school junior high. She just didn't hit that. So then in the girls union allow the junior high to practice with the high school if your school allows that, which we've never done that, but I don't know that we had a positive or negative on that. I think I would have been okay. The reason that's in there is because of low numbers. So if your varsity 9 through 12 numbers are so small, then the junior high can come up and practice and give you more bodies. So then I was already asked that by our high school coaches to be able to do that. So I'm like, I think I'm okay with that, but I don't think it's allowed. So I want to check calling the girls union. Even if you were having junior high kids practice, now they cannot practice with the high school. So that, I mean, right or wrong, it was an easy answer for me because I got it straight from the union. The other side that everybody's just pointing to the top, because the questions we're getting is, I don't even understand why. I guess it's just the top down, and we're going to try to keep our older kids playing. The seniors get their opportunity and the younger kids will have more opportunities. That's my opinion, but I don't know. I was just told that's how it is till December 10 with more information to come. So yeah, Kim, you were going to ask me a question.
No, I was just going to thank you for handling it all, because I'm sure it was complicated.
Yeah, I mean, the good and bad to this really is in the fall, I was pretty stressed trying to do both hats because they were both full steam ahead. I'll be honest, since we went hybrid, I'm supporting teachers the best I can. Our hallways are pretty thin. Our lunches are, I mean, everything is just good or bad. And I'm going to talk about the hybrid. It has allowed me to really focus in on all those other, that's where everything's rolling right now with the sports and schedules and what's all happening there. So kind of a blessing in disguise. We are in a hybrid. It just has helped that. So I didn't want to say, I think when we come to what the information on the hybrid, I know Dr. Clapper sent out the email and she has the data. I know my staff overwhelmingly, that's the word I would use, felt that we should be in a hybrid or in virtual. I think I had 1 or 2 staff members that wanted to bring them back, and she has that data for sure, which may be a difference in the elementary. I just know constantly talking to my teachers kind of where they're at on that, and the comfortability was somewhere between hybrid and virtual in general. So then I sent out a survey today. So again, it wasn't I feel or I think. So I have the data here. I can share it more specifically, but I really just asked 3 questions, and I think they're my concerns or what I want our teachers to focus on during the hybrid. I think when we first went hybrid, everybody kind of was in that 1 or 2 week mode, and we'll just get through it and we'll be back to normal. So somewhere in there, I think Dr. Clapper sent out and we talked that the chances of getting this longer than Thanksgiving are increasing. So I think our teachers felt that, and you started to see things change the way they were handling it, which is really good. So the questions I asked were worried about the curriculum, and I think we talked about that a month ago. Since going to the hybrid model, the pacing of my curriculum is, and they could have answered, ahead of schedule, right on schedule, slightly behind, or concerning and growing further behind. I looked at that that's really the only one that really concerned me, if they felt like they were really far behind and going the wrong direction. And out of 19 responses, I had 2 teachers that felt that way, and I know who they are. One I understand, and one I'm going to have a conversation with why they feel that. Everybody else was split. Half our teachers said they're slightly behind schedule. I think they're gaining ground, and 6 felt like they were right on, and we actually had one that said they were ahead of schedule because of the hybrid. So overall numbers, that'll tell you 80–90% of our teachers are probably feeling curriculum-wise where they want to be. The second question was, have you been happy with your students' efforts on their off day, which that's the second big one. What's happening on the days that the kids aren't here? They had, again, it's exceeded my expectation, met it, just below my expectation, or not at all near my expectation. I went to that one, and again, 2 teachers felt like those, and it was the same 2 that felt like they were falling farther behind. So there was a correlation between I'm not getting where I need to in my curriculum, and I don't think the kids are doing what they need to at all. Everyone else, we had, again, the same one that was the kids are exceeding my expectations. Everyone else was either meeting or just below what I thought, where I thought they would be in adjusting. So I felt real, that's 85%, almost 90 again, that we're pretty much where we want the kids to be. And the last one, just how much has instruction assessment changed since going to hybrid? Extremely different, somewhat different, about the same. I wanted to see at least somewhat different, because if we're doing business the exact same way, the hybrid probably isn't working very well for you, because it's just a different, you're only getting half the kids. And again, only 3 teachers out of 19 said it was about the same. Everybody, 2 said extremely different, and then 75% of our teachers thought it was somewhat different. There's stress, there's edginess, but I think first of all, what our kids are doing when they're not here has been pretty good to allow our teachers to keep moving. So I see what's going home. I see what's happening when our kids come back. I think still our biggest gap is kids that miss school on their day, or kids that are quarantined or contact traced or positive. Those are the kids that really worry me, because they're not coming in every day, and it's a different curriculum sort of than what the teachers, because they're planning on this every other day. Now I've got these 5 kids who aren't here for 2 weeks. So how do I keep them going? I felt that the older the kids are, the easier that is. I mean, our kids are going to go to college, the ones that are, it'll all be this way, even if we're out of COVID. The online learning is the way that it's all going to happen. So it's great for them to really dive in, even when they say, I'm not really an online learner. Middle school are the kids that are, trade oriented, or, struggle in school. They're obviously not flourishing in this model, but that's the data. So I just wanted to tell you where, our teachers thought they were, or felt they were. So as we get talking down the road, you kind of get at least a picture of what's going on. So
Is it, I know this is new, but is there a plan? Are you talking about a plan for those kids that aren't flourishing? I'm sure you are, but.
Yep, so, and specifically, I can tell you that a little concerned with the upper level high school grade-wise, that's my focus. So math, the ones that need the credit, that, I can tell you SRG is also really good, because instead of sending the kids home and they're not turning in, they're just getting killed by the points and just failing. We now are working with them to get that assessment done, working with them when they get here. I'm not worried as much about, I don't think we're going to have any surprises of kids not graduating or losing credits. I think we'll work through most or all of that, but I worry just where everybody's at. We haven't done a ton of testing, assessment testing, Iowa test. We fast test in the middle school. I'm just kind of overall concerned where we're at. Sometimes I feel better. I go into Cassie's class or even Colby's with math and English, and they're rolling. I mean, it's really good. But I look at our sixth grade. I don't even know. I mean, this all started so fresh with our sixth grade. We didn't even know them very well. I mean, I commend our middle school teachers. They're jamming it, but I feel disconnected. So there's my answer. It's that unknown. You know, we'll get the kids there for the bare minimum, but are we really making the gains? But we're in the same boat as everybody right now. You know, we have some teachers that lobbied really hard for virtual, and I think that it was, to be honest, I think it was more of our top end English, AP, Calc, those types, because that's what they're gonna do anyway. And now I get contact with them every single day. We're all on the same page. It's okay that it's Zoom. It's okay that we're all virtual. So I've been working with them to say that mentality can still kind of happen. You can Zoom your kids on the days they're home, or, you know, however you want that to look. But I know where they were coming from virtual, just feeling like it's better to see them every day and we just stay on that path.
That was my next question. Like, you basically answered it. So there has been conversation about on your off days, zooming in with the class that's in-house.
No doubt, no doubt. And that's happening in some. I mean, I know we flipped. There's a couple teachers are actually videotaping and then just putting it out there so the kid doesn't have to be in during that time, but it's out there for them to watch what happened. It's forcing people to keep moving every day, because you can't teach this group and then come back and teach the same thing to this group. That's the one I've been preaching on them. I mean, you're just going to be halfway through, and you know, well, how long? I would plan on doing it the rest of the year. So I don't think we will, but I want that in their mentality. We're planning on this all year long. So you can't teach for 90 days. You have to figure out how to go for 180 and get them there. Now, we also would rather go deeper than wider. So let's find the priority standards. We just had a conversation with 3 after school today. What are those priority standards, and dig on those? I know you love this little unit about blank, but maybe that has to go to the wayside to really plug whatever that priority standard is. Yeah. And Dennis is doing a great job. He's probably working more individual with teachers than I am right now. He's still getting in the classrooms, having lots of conversation with them.
So I'll start by saying that I sent out some information to our whole elementary staff, teachers, to get their take on some things. I asked them to reflect on a couple ideas, idea of bringing kids back, an idea of being a hybrid, and of course then there was discussion about being remote as far as online learning goes, remote. And so I also asked them to think a little bit about and share with me at the BLT meeting how their hybrid's going, positives, negatives. You know, are they like Ross? Are we teaching 90 days worth of stuff? Are we teaching 180 days worth of stuff? Where's our pacing on that? And so, so that's what I did Monday. I visited with the building leadership team and just got some consensus. We went through some consensus on a couple of those ideas, and then just had some general discussion about things. This is just from Jay Snaker, okay? So I've like for days and days and days and days, it seems like maybe even months and months and months, wait, you know, health and safety, academics, health and safety, academics. And that is a skill that's never balanced. There's just not a way to like do all of this, what's kind of expected, you know, to benefit kids. And then when you throw in parents and all of our stakeholders, as far as, you know, their jobs, their daycare, their finances, all the things that play into that, it becomes really tough, because my kids are not Rob's kids. My kids are not sitting in front of a computer, online learning at age 7 by themselves without a parent there. It's just not happening. It's not the same situation. So one of my biggest concerns that I've grappled with is from a very personal level, I'm a big health and safety guy. And as a principal, my career as a principal has been a school improvement plan, trying to get ourselves on the right path and have our kids be successful. So that's been my career as a principal, and now this. And so that's a challenge, and it's a challenge that's really tough. We started off this year with our first FAST test, and 48% of our students in the elementary were at benchmark for reading. So 48, so half. So we dropped from roughly 70% to 48% over a 5-month break. So obviously taking a break from education and not having kids learning is detrimental to them. And so if we start to look at our plans and we start to talk about what happens, I think it would be a catastrophe if 48 became 28, right? I mean, if we keep taking steps backwards. And the frustration is that, like Rob said, the playing field's level for everybody in the country, right? So it's not that it's that, it's just that on a very selfish and personal level, I want our kids to grow, and as do all of our teachers, 100%. They want the kids to be successful, and they're doing everything there. So I think it's very emotional, it's very professional. There's a lot of feelings, a lot of, people are grappling with their own personal stuff about this, and it's really a challenge. So to put it in a nutshell, I would say over half of my staff would be struggling on some lower end of consensus, from adamantly that would be the worst decision in the world, and I'm willing to help find a better solution, but that would be the worst decision in the world, to somewhere in, well, I guess I can be supportive if that's what we're going to do. So not hurrah, let's wave the flag for bringing kids back. It's just the concern about health and safety is very important to teachers. And so this, I can just tell you, I got teachers absent, because of COVID related things. And that's a struggle for the classroom, right? That's a struggle for a principal and other teachers and other staff members, because now we're all trying to fill in for them and try to do a job that teacher's, wants to be doing. We're trying to fill in and do that. And then therefore other things are struggling. So keeping teachers safe has to be, and healthy has to be, a key aspect of this. I would say that all of our staff is in support of a hybrid learning plan, but there's some things that, I think are important and that they think are pretty important too. So it is an enormous planning undertaking for elementary kids to plan a hybrid, because if you're truly trying to teach 1+ lessons a day in reading and math, maybe let's just say 2 for the sake of a scenario, that takes a little more effort and time, because I'm trying to teach 2 math lessons at that time. Then on top of that, I'm trying to prepare for them to go home and do something related to that, practice that, maybe learn some new stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So I have to plan all that as well. Above and beyond all the planning that we do, we're trying to still, our planning looks, much related to a collaborative team, 2 teachers planning together, trying to maintain having their own plans, because they still do a few things different than they do. So there's just a lot that goes into that. So I know when we went hybrid, we took away that Monday plan, but that's our biggest planning time in the week. Every other time in that, it's 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and that's what we get our planning time. So I think if we are going to maintain a hybrid, the elementary staff for sure needs that planning time back, that Monday planning time. It's very critical for what we're doing. I'm a huge supporter in it. Everything that we do with our professional learning communities and our collaborative teams depends on planning and collaborative time, and trying to get that done. So that would be very important to us. I know that I asked the staff at the BLT meeting, I kind of brought up that scenario of we take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And there's a sense of that, so it just becomes that much more, if we think about that balance, that academics and education instruction, there has to be that much more of a solid plan in place if we're going to keep making gains with kids. So how we plan those times, the personnel that we have involved, like for when kids are here, the plan for their for their MTSS with their instruction is going to be very important. So it's just a challenge. I mean, it really is a challenge. And adolescents, young kids especially, there's a whole lot that their experiences in life play into as well, right? I mean, so this is a challenge on their learning as well. Being at home, there's so much change in schedule. Nothing is consistent. They're eating in the rooms, they're not eating in the rooms. I moved us all, I'll just be honest, I moved everybody to the cafeteria now, because we have half the kids there. So I moved them all into the cafeteria because by the guidelines, if they're all eating in the classroom and they don't have masks on for 30 minutes and the teacher's within that proximity, whether he or she's wearing a mask or not, if one of those kids, the teacher would end up being quarantined because one has a mask on and the rest don't. So during this hybrid, I might as well put them all in the cafeteria, because we have, I mean, we can still space out at our every other seat. And then the teachers can, that's just another opportunity for them to stay healthy. So, you know, there's just a lot of changes in our students' lives this year that do cause some issues in learning for sure. So it's a really tough decision. I think the hybrid, our teachers are doing well. They're adjusting to the hybrid. And like I said earlier, you know, that they're finding their way through it and they're coming up with stuff. We have some resources that we've hunted down. Our new math resource that we've been using this year, piloting this year, actually has provided our teachers some ideas for, like, you take these 3 lessons and you can compress them by in person doing this, this, and this. And when they're gone, having them attempt to do this and this, and then when they come back, you kind of, so they're kind of giving us some guidance. Think tanks like Achieve the Core, putting out some things that say, not just here's your priority standards, but at 4th grade in a hybrid pandemic teaching year, out of these priority standards, if they can get these 4 things before they go to the next grade level, these would be the most important. So the priorities of the priorities, so to speak. So then, you know, teachers have to kind of take that and figure out how they can do that. But yeah, it's the reality of it, I think. So I think a hybrid, probably my staff would be very supportive of a hybrid, maintaining that, continuing to watch. You know, there's a lot of question about the guidance and what the metrics will be to make the decision to do the next thing. I don't know, you know, guys, I kind of tried to stay out of conversation at the beginning as you were looking through some of this. I think maybe the bigger issue is there's a guidance on here, but when you read it as a metrics, the guidance says may be requested. The guidance never says when Baxter is going to make that decision. So I think maybe that's what they're digging for when they dig for a metrics, you know, because this metrics is so general. 20%, you may choose to do this. You should probably talk to some people and good luck kind of thing. I'm just being blunt about it.
Right.
The metrics is very vague and it's very whatever. And what I think the BEA is asking for is, when will Baxter make a decision? Like, what will be the metrics that says this is what, and if it's just spelled out, I think then the communication piece is there. If the metrics is, you know, when it's so many of our kids or so many of our staff or something, at least then we have a number, because the numbers we hear are numbers that are in a larger area. And then, I mean, if somebody says 20%, and then it's 20, we all think it should happen. Right, wrong, or indifferent, right? But anyway, I think that's probably, if I was just from what I'm hearing, that's probably what I think is being requested of the metrics. What will Baxter's metrics be to make a decision? Not, here's a real general guide, good luck to you, figure it out on your own kind of thing. That's just me, so.
If you all check your email right now, I've been trying to get a hold of a couple superintendents and some public health people, and I just forwarded you a message with an attached rubric. This is a really nice example of, I think what it takes this information right here, but kind of spells it out more. So for folks listening on Zoom, it just takes the same Jasper County rolling positivity percentages, and then it breaks it all into also looking at building absence rates for students or staff for 2 consecutive days. So like, let's say Jasper County was at 15% positivity, and but in Baxter, we had less than 5% of our students or staff. According to this, that would be you just look at the rubric and it says, okay, that would be on-site learning, 100% in person. But if you had 15% and positivity, and then you had more than 10% of your kids or staff out for 2 days, then you'd go to hybrid. Or if you had high county positivity and low in Baxter kids that are actually sick, you could stay in so it just lays it out a little more, I think, which is probably what our BEA is asking for. And it would, honestly, we can tweak these to fit what Baxter wants, or, you know, what the board wants, but it would be helpful for all of us. It would take the indecision out of it. You know, it's, if we get to this, then we do this. And, you know, obviously at the bottom it says, you know, there's can be modified if needed or whatever. But this is a good starting point, and if this is something you guys would support, which it's really just taking this return to learn data, I don't know, people. So if we're using this, this is the most current data from the Department of Public Health. It's like an overhead projector. This is a document from the Department of Public Health and the Department of Education. And I've sent this out to parents and to staff before, but just we're revisiting it. And there was also some other guidance that came out in, looks like this, that came out in July. And this more current, this guidance is based on this guidance, but this is more updated. So
That's kind of the hard thing though, it's always being updated
right.
Yeah, that's
And
what
it's
I
so
struggle
hard
with is
to keep up.
you put something down on paper or whatever, and then the governor has a news conference and that all changes.
You know, regarding the.
I know you guys have been fighting it all for the past 8 months, so.
Yeah.
What I do know about metrics and some other districts, take it or leave it, is the one that will really cause strain on us is faculty, staff absence. So they had this or thought they had this, their kids' rates were okay, but the staff just had too many out. It was still not to where they thought that they had, you know, the districts around. That's what made their decision.
Right.
So before you just be hard, you know, this is it. That could change even for us without a governor. If all of a sudden Jason lost 4 teachers and I lost 4, we may still be well under 10, but you know, it's like Deb said, we lose one bus driver, we're in big trouble.
Or, you know, Jason could lose 5 teachers and Rob still has full staff. So if we needed to shut down, you could, because you don't have to shut the whole district. You can shut down the elementary, you could send part of them virtual, you could send part, you know, have some of them in person. You don't have to do it as one whole district. So I was on a Zoom with several Heartland area superintendents, and we were all asking for some sort of, does somebody have like the magic rubric? And nobody did. But what they did say is one district that had tried to put one together, the metric was if you had 25% of your staff out, and they realized that was just way too high. And like 10%, it wasn't even, you couldn't say 10% because it just depends. If it was, you know,
2 second-grade teachers.
Right, or if it was, you know, all the administrators, oh yeah, would it be crazy? Yeah, but could they still have school without the 3 of us? Yeah, but that would, so it just depends on which of the 10% or which people are gone. So, I mean, we can use this or this as a guide, but it just like everything, there's an asterisk because it just depends.
We haven't, so, I mean, one is there's no subs available, very few subs available. We haven't filled long-term high school absences. It's been remote with them from home and they sit in the collaborative space. I mean, that's it's less stress and strain on us at the older you go. If we had a teacher that's dealing with juniors and seniors, it's not that big a stress. I mean, it is, but you can function in school. Like we said, Jason, I mean, I don't know what that magic number is. We joke around at 3 and 4. At elementary, they're I don't know how you do business.
Yeah. I mean, we've played that out a lot lately in my office. Just there's wiggle room, but that, like I just said, that reallocates people from a position they have to something else. I mean, right? And then the question is, on some levels, are you stretching the legalities of that? Like, right? Like if I had to take Cheryl Russell out of title to have her sub for kindergarten, I don't know if by not providing the title, am I like, you know, probably stretching the law a little bit there because we have that and we're supposed to have that. But, you know, right now I have a WIN teacher that a WIN para that we're paying with our ESSA money who has a sub endorsed or sub license now because of the right. And she's subbed greater than 6 times this year where we don't have a sub. And then, so she moves out of that. And then Zach and I are now running WIN groups. And then lately, unfortunately for our teachers, I'm so swamped that I can't run WIN groups. I mean, I'm chasing, I'm meetings and I'm chasing here, I'm chasing there. And it's like, I can't run her WIN today and she's subbing. So we're kind of, you know, so I mean, it just kind of, the chips start to fall as people go away. So, you know, I mean, Greg Pickett's got a teaching license. I guess I can pull him out of the library or out of tech duties or out of his, you know, guidance or his specials if I need to, but that's just as teachers are falling, then we're pulling staff from other places and then we're missing out there too. But I guess it is what it is. If 2020, 21 is all about survival mode, then so be it. But
one thing you had mentioned earlier that maybe we can fix is the prep time. Is there a way to, you know, give that time back to the teachers? I mean, that's something that sounds like is doable.
We could just go
I mean, I
back
think
to the
it's pretty easy to
normal.
give us that Monday back.
Yeah, so if we were to go long-term hybrid or whatever we decide, if we said when we come back from Thanksgiving, we're gonna just go back to just the every other day, like a Mondays will be back to normal Mondays, not normal like in person, but school would start at 9:20, because we've realized now that we've done this for a couple weeks, that is time the teachers just absolutely, at least elementary, really, really needs that. And Rob, did yours say it was helpful, but like it wasn't the end of the world?
Well, I don't want to speak for that. I mean, that's an informal conversation. I truly threw around at 10 o'clock and just thought they would just put me as the grand marshal of the parade, and it wasn't that big a deal for them. I thought that was the safe. I'm going to give you till 10. It's like, well, I mean, I think what happens at our level is that besides their prep and then the classes are, I mean, they have we have some teachers who end up with nobody in their class on one of those because of contact traced, and that number was 6th grade's already, I don't know what that split is, 3, I mean, it's small. So you walk into some room sometimes and it's almost uncomfortable. It's a teacher with 2 kids. You know, so I mean, we're all for taking the Monday. I'm great taking the Monday back, using that. We have it built in anyway. Our teachers would use it. So, I mean, that's kind of where I would be.
I mean, kind of like, there's so many uncontrollables in every job this year. There's a few things that we can correct, let's do that, and the other things, I mean, it is what it is. I mean.
Yeah, that time would be very important for my teachers down in our building. So I think the other thing that I left out that I think we should revisit is a potential, and it could be just teacher by teacher. I got a bunch of information back from Teachers Day, but the A through K, L through Z split didn't work out really well. So I have like 16 and a 4, right? Well, that doesn't help in the whole, you know, we're trying to cut the number of students in half. One teacher that Michael was like, she was like A through K got her 4 kids, and then she had 1 M, and then the rest of the letters were S through W. So like, I mean, like almost her whole class is S through W, and so it's kind of bizarre. So I asked teachers, and I had about 5 teachers out of 12 that were good with their split. They felt it was pretty good. They wouldn't mind if I had to tweak something, like, you know, if your kids, I needed to move them to the other side of the alphabet, it would affect this teacher too. And they were okay with like 1 maybe going. I tried, because it also affects Rob's kids and teachers. So as I was looking today, it's crazy, because if you're still trying to split the alphabet, except for that one extreme example, most of them, it's just a letter or 2. And then the number of kids, the chance of having a secondary kid too is pretty slim. And so far I have it down to like 1 kid that I need to visit with Rob about if we want to do that or not. And then we wouldn't, you know, if it messes up too much. So I'd have to look a little deeper, but I think there was some concern that we're always switching on parents now, a lot of changing, right? But even having Friday off threw all of our parents off. I had kids in school on Monday that shouldn't have been in school on Monday, you know, and so it just messed everything up. I think if we choose to do this until Christmas, after Thanksgiving would be a good time to make a switch if we're gonna make it, and then a calendar that kind of spells out exactly, you know, if there's a snow day, we're not making that A day up the next day we come back, it's just whatever date it should be, so that parents know exactly this is it. And like I said, it would be a handful of classrooms where I would need to try to get them 2 or 3 kids on each side of that split pushed, and I would try to do it with families that just have 1 child that are willing to do that. And, you know, I'd communicate pretty open with them if we could make that happen. I just think it would work a little better. I mean, it's hard to believe. I taught 2 kids 1 year, 2 kids in a class. It's tough to teach 2 kids. There's not a whole lot of discussion. It's kind of, you know, so if you can imagine having, I mean, maybe you can get a lot done with 3 or 4 first graders, but I think sometimes maybe having 5 or 6 would be a little better than, you know, than having 2 or 4, so if you're open to us making some moves a little bit on the split, so at least it benefits and more evenness to the classes and stuff.
So my problem with that was for every teacher, because it's not just that teacher's class. So if Kristen said, if we could just move these 2, middle school's a bad example because we're kind of the same, but in high school, grades are all together. So this teacher could be happy we moved 2 kids, and it really puts strain on another teacher's split. So right now I'm at the boat. I think we stay for us. That's unless Jason has 1 or 2. I mean, I think there's a handful, when I say probably 4 to 8, may be able to move sections and probably just contact those parents and just tell them they're in the opposite group. Because we were looking at pretty wholesale changes for a little while, ability and just a lot of things. And the more and more we dove into that, that's we're better off maintaining what we're doing. People are getting in a rhythm. They kind of know what's going on. That's so much more important than trying to, we don't need it to seem all brand new if we go longer than next week, so.
So I guess thinking about, teachers have to start being out of the building. It's obviously going to be different for grade levels or buildings or everything, but what's the opportunity for them to be at home and still teaching? I know you said a couple are kind of doing it now.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, ironically, since this meeting started, I've had 2 teachers tell me they're not in tomorrow with spike fevers and symptoms. I just feel like it's like, but we've really done a good job. At the high school, that's what we'll do. Middle school gets a little more tricky that way, in that they just don't handle themselves. Hey, go to the commons and I'll oversee it, and it's all Google. It should work that way, but it's just that behavior more than anything. We'll probably do a mix, but we may not have a choice because there are no subs. We have really 2 middle high school subs we're using hard right now. So if middle school happened, it'd probably be some sort of see what that situation is.
Like I said, I think a distance remote learn is very challenging at elementary level. So for a teacher to sit at home and, maybe they're COVID positive, but they're not experiencing a whole lot of symptoms, right? That's a reality. So they may feel up to teaching, but you still have to have an adult in the room because you got to monitor those kids. And so whether it's a little bit of a partnership between the teacher and that sub, more than anything, it's making sure we have great plans there and the sub probably. I mean, it's probably going to be more. It's probably going to be less of a distraction for the sub to try to teach that day than to have a teacher on a computer screen trying to talk to a group of kids and trying to manage them and what I mean. It's just not. So an example we've had is a teacher home who's, the plans are there every day. They're emailing them in. We're printing them off. They have the subs know exactly what's happening. Teaching partners there helping out. Other teachers are like, if we run into a sub that doesn't really understand whatever means, how do you teach phonics? So we have people kind of helping out that way. And I think that's probably the simpler way to do that. And try to have an expectation of teaching remotely into the classroom, at least now. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
I'm just saying it's an option,
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
So if we're trying to expect kids to do it,
yeah,
we can have teachers do it too. Obviously, it'll take a lot of thinking about how to do it, but it's an idea.
So where do we go, I guess, from here? I mean, do we want to take that matrix that Michael got a copy of and shape it to us? And then, I don't know, just in our discussion, in that matrix, do we need to put staffing too, rather than just kids that are, if we have more than 20% of the staff out, we're going to go to virtual, or what, is that something we want to include in that, just
Yeah.
so?
This one,
People
it
know.
does
It does
say
say
students, building absence rate for students or staff
Okay.
2 consecutive days. So let's say we had greater than 10% staff, and maybe you should say but I can't even think we could say instructional staff, because if we have more than 10% of the bus drivers out, we're,
I
And
know,
we have
just,
10% of the bus drivers out, Rob and I are driving buses and looking out for the deer and the raccoons, man, we're just like.
yeah, we'll just pile them in our cars.
it just depends on the staff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can,
Yeah. And there is an asterisk at the bottom of the above table does not automatically determine a shift to new learning model, but is meant as a reference guide for school administration to consider the need to change instructional models. So,
I mean, regarding this letter, did they give you any indication of what a rubric, a metric would look like that would work?
I got an email or a text that was this one.
I mean, I didn't have very long to look at.
Yeah, this is the one from July, and it's very similar to the Return to Learn one. But it's just, but I don't think that they were necessarily, married to this one. And we had a good conversation, because their concern was just, they wish they knew like sooner and what to expect. So like, because I think everyone did think, well, when it gets to 20%, you just automatically have to close your school. But then if you look at the Return to Learn guidance from the most recent one, it says if there's greater than 20% positivity in a county on average over the past 14 days with healthcare resource capacity concerns. And so that's one that's not necessarily public knowledge. So I do communicate daily with Jasper County Public Health. They have been, I just want to say this publicly, so wonderful to work with. I mean, they are like angels. And they send us information every day. What's the county positivity rate? What's our town's positivity rate? How many actual positive cases do we have in our town? And I mean, they're answering questions. And so, I can ask them, do we have healthcare capacity concerns? And, they can say, no, we're pretty good right now, or yeah, we're starting to get closer to that. But like, that's not something there's not a certain percentage that they say we're at 99% capacity concern, or we're at 10%. They give me kind of a ballpark of where we're at.
I was just looking at the Linville-Sully thing that you emailed, and where it says staff, is there a reason why we couldn't break it out into groups like normally what we would do when we're looking at salary? So we're looking at bus drivers. If there's X% of bus drivers gone, then this. Or cooks, if there's this % of cooks gone, then this. And then instructional staff, if there's this % then gone, or any combination of all of them.
I mean, we could. I think it's still going to depend on, it depends. So if we didn't have enough bus drivers, but we had enough teachers, but we could get, like, I could take one of the vans and Jason and Rob could take some of the other vans and go get kids. We still have school. But if we're locked into this percentage, like, well, we said that if there's less than 5% of the bus drivers out, that we have to close school or whatever, I think we pigeonhole ourselves. But
Well, I think if you say may,
yeah,
as opposed to will.
Mm-hmm. And that's what this rubric that they're using. And this was just a 1 second. I emailed right after visiting with Mrs. Bishop. I emailed another district and asked questions, and I haven't reached out to anybody else since, like, she and I visited at 5:30 to try and get a rubric of some kind, because really we've just been using all along this Return to Learn reopening school guidance, and this is what public health keeps sending to us, and they reference this, but like we've said, it's kind of gray. It says, like, we suggest that you might.
It's gray for a reason, because every district is so different.
Right.
I guess you want to spend a lot of time making a Baxter one when things change daily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand the 48 hours notice, and nobody wants that. I can't imagine how difficult this must be for teachers. But I'm just saying, like, spending all this time and energy on a rubric when tomorrow looks different than it did today.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was looking earlier. Baxter's down to like 12%
Right.
or 10% now.
Right.
So do you go off Baxter's numbers? Do you use Jasper County? Do you use this,
That's where I struggle
So
with using the county numbers. To me, if we can get the Baxter community numbers from Jasper County on a daily basis, it's like,
There's-
let's use those. I
At
mean,
one
that's,
point in time, we went from, it was like 2022, then in a couple days it was like 50%, and then back down to 40. It's like, now
Is it-
granted, the small town, you had the 3
Right.
people and
Right.
one day, that's gonna, but
I mean, more than likely, I mean, we're not even really in the flu season yet. I mean, we're looking at hybrid at least until after that. I mean, if things keep going the way they're going. So is it hard for the teachers, like, let's say our numbers go down magically and to go back to on-site light learning, that's not the problem. The problem is going from all in class to hybrid, right? I mean, because that's likely where we'll be for a while, right?
I would think. You know, like just guidance, just in general that we've had is they're most worried about classes that move a lot, like the secondary kids. Like, you know, the elementary kids they're pretty contained, and not the teachers, like just public health in general, CDC, like those in general are most concerned about the movement, not so much about the kids that stay like in their room all day. So like, you know, like Jason's kids are in their room. So I know like some neighboring districts have they're still in a hybrid model, but their elementary kids are back in person because they're not traveling. They come to their classroom, they go to the lunchroom, they go to recess, and they go back to their classroom. They don't have like math in one room and science in another room. But their secondary kids are still virtual because they have to move so much. They don't want them, you know, mixing.
So is that what teachers are, I'm not sure I understand. So maybe you're saying like bringing elementary back all on site, keeping middle school and high school.
I'm just saying that's like a possibility.
That's a
Like I'm just
but
not saying
what
that's
you're
what,
saying.
but that's not what Jason's staff is really
That's not
pushing
what
for
they're-
right now. I think
Yeah, that
that's,
would not be what they support.
Okay.
yeah, that's
Okay,
not
I
what
just
they,
wanna make sure.
yeah, I just wanna make sure you know that
Our
that's,
kids and stuff, it's not like, I think if Michael's saying they're moving around the building, going between classes, but I mean, we still are out of the playground, we're still in the cafeteria, we still have win time where we intermix that grade level, but it's still, I mean, you know, teachers are working with somebody else's kids during that time. Paras are working with kids in multiple rooms, moving them around from room to room. So, I mean, there's a lot that's happening there. Yeah, you know,
It's just-
I think there's things that I said to our staff the other day that I think that, no matter what we choose to do, I still think we can continue to improve on and maybe even rethink some of our safety and health stuff as far as cleaning goes, as far as enforcing masks and social distancing. I mean, you know, the hybrid's important during this time, I think, because I do have 2 classrooms that have about 20 kids in them, and they're not social distance at 6 feet. I mean, they're not, you know, they're 4 feet, 5 feet, 3 feet, depending on what angle you measure from and stuff. So, so I think it's important that we continue hygiene practices and we look at those even deeper and try to figure out how to improve those. And, you know, today I was just on a tear with kids and their masks under their noses. I saw a lot of kids today with the masks under their noses, elementary kids that I don't typically see. And what the problem is becoming is their masks are wearing out. And so they're loose and stretched out, and they're just falling, you know, so they can't, you know, and then they put it up and it just drops right back down, like, just throw it there, you know, but they, you know, they're not kids that are typically fighting it, but it's just, you know, we're however many months into this now, and so, just not letting our guard down is gonna be important, but, we can't ignore the fact that, I agree with everybody, right? Scientifically, I agree, you just watch the hotspots work their way closer and closer to you, right? Doesn't necessarily mean you're in one yet, but we also watch them closer and closer until other people are making good decisions that affect our little spot, you know, that's a problem, right? I mean, in our own household, we've had conversations with our older children about, like, if you're choosing to do this, then you can't put, you know, the rest of your family in any sort of situation here, right? I mean, so, you know, our college-age son has been very respectful of us, and Renee, as far as like, you know, and Olivia, as far as state dance goes, and I'm not gonna come home because, you know, I'm not necessarily making choices. I'm putting myself in situations where I could bring something home to you. So I'm not going to do that to you, which we appreciate, you know, that he's being respectful that way. But those are things that just like that change our system, change the whole thing. Just one little thing or whatever changes it all. So we
Which,
have to
in
be
that-
conscious of that.
That sense, even the, like, Rob getting 2 texts, he has 2 teachers that might be out. So like, if we had to close tomorrow, they wouldn't have 48 hours notice. They'd have right now, because that's all we know. So, I mean, we can try and give as much notice as possible, but like when we gave notice on a Friday that said there is a good chance we will be moving to a hybrid model next week, so get ready. I mean, but we said we're gonna watch it over the weekend, and we watched it over the weekend, and the numbers tipped, and we had to move to a hybrid model. So when we said on Monday, we're moving to a hybrid model, but I told you on Friday to be ready. So as far as, like, because the numbers could have went the other way, so I'd hate to say on Friday, we're going hybrid on Tuesday, and then the numbers went the other way, and it was fine, and we didn't need to. So, I mean, we can give as much notice as possible, and now that we've had more time and we've been at 20% longer, it's gonna take longer to bring it back too, you know, so.
I mean, I think this whole year we have to kind of go into school knowing we want to keep our kids in school as long as possible. As a parent, I want my kids in school as long as possible because they're going to learn more from their teachers than they are when they're not with their teachers. But the reality is we might not be in school all the time. So regardless of how much notice we have to know, we all knew going in, we might not get that luxury of having a ton of notice with whatever the decisions are, because this is the reality of where we are with this.
I think you also have to remember that, you know, while if it's the teachers that are out, that's what we're dealing with, because that, you know, that them in front of the students is most important. But if we got a call tonight with one of our cooks out, we have no more cooks. And so that could, I mean, I think we need to think about all the other people that are in the building too that could cause us to go that way. I don't think we've even thought about what our procedures are going to be if 2 bus drivers come down sick, or 1 bus driver for that matter, or 1 cook. I mean, we're shorthanded. We had a cook just quit not too long ago. We're not replacing her. We are shorthanded. So if 1 cook were to call in, I don't know how we would serve lunch.
Yeah, making the metric even harder to write down. I understand, but I don't know how it's possible.
I think everybody's searching for some certainty, and
we just
there
don't have
isn't
any.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta kind of roll with the punches, which I think we've done pretty well so far. I commend everybody. But I mean, just to have it all in a rubric and that,
Doesn't
and
all
it's
fit
like,
in a peg, really.
yeah.
Like Debbie said earlier, I mean, you know, us at job since March, and this hit us back in March, you know, having to figure out, like, I mean, that was like the worst time for my job for that to hit. It's our busiest time of year, but was it stressful? Yeah. Just like now, we're 3 months into the school year, kind of getting this traction rolling here. Got to adjust. It's hard, but you'll get things figured out, is what I'm trying to say, because I mean, it's been 8 months now, and still got a job, still working, still doing our thing. The first it was terrible. You figure it out, you get it done. You had to go on the fly. I mean, that's just how things are. So, I mean, we'll do our best to, you know, support everybody, but you know, some things you just can't plan for. Like say, if 3 teachers call on tomorrow, well, what do you do to shut down the whole school? Well, you have to. So, I mean, there's sometimes you just cannot say this is the numbers, because like say 3 teachers might be only 5%, which would not be on this, you know, if we use that example. If that, well, it's less than 5%, so we're still gonna do online, but it's 3 teachers, not 3 students.
And I'm not putting
So what do
anybody
you-
ahead of anybody else, but it does matter who those
Right.
3
Right.
are.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
does.
problem, and I'm not, everybody's valuable, but I mean, I truly could do my job as long as I mean, I'm dealing with now, there's maybe new junior high guidance. I mean, I don't have to be in this building if something, but there are
Right.
certain people that it will put a strain, well, Julie just said cooks.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, there's certain places that it will put a strain on us.
Well, that's what I meant. And I wasn't talking about getting, having a rubric. I'm just saying, while it's important to have our teachers on site, there's other people in the district that could change this at the drop of the hat as well, where the rubric wouldn't do us any good.
Mhm.
So I know you were, kind of had a COVID tracker earlier in the year and that, I mean, we can't release numbers if it's less than 6 or whatever, but as far as our building positivity and all of that, do we have a sense of,
Yeah.
like, if we were to make adjustments with hybrid for elementary level versus middle school, high school, where there's been more of an impact compared to student body and people, really?
Yeah, I mean, we've had roughly 11 kids total positive. I'd have to look on here to see which ones were elementary and which ones were secondary. And then we've had,
I counted it last week of people that had missed with contact trace, so this
Yeah,
could
like-
be even the same person
Mhm.
twice. We're like 130 some.
that have had to like quarantine and
Quarantine.
over the, since the beginning of the year time. And we've had some kids who've had to quarantine a couple of times.
Two, maybe even one with 3.
They just keep being in the wrong place at the wrong time or something.
But is your sense, is it more elementary or high school, or is it pretty much
I don't.
even all the way
I was-
across?
I don't know, because I was surprised in
Yeah.
how many Jason had, but maybe he wasn't. I just was like, man, because I'm not privy to that. I was like, that seems like a lot of people all the time.
And is that
wasn't aware.
counting that whole, like when we quarantined that whole class for one day? So that was like 20 some kids. And then the guidance literally changed the next day. And so then all those kids got to come back. So that was, 20 or so kids.
I just, and I know that the contact tracing is just, not Sarah's fault, not anybody's fault, I think, because of the situation. We're sending kids home probably that shouldn't, and we're not sending people home that should, and she knows I'm frustrated, so it's just, it just has been that's been the biggest frustration for me as far as dealing with kids since school started. It's like, how are we not that kid, or then why did we get, and I get it, it's Jasper County, and there's a million things, and learning that you have to listen to what somebody tells you, and then it's just.
And then even like I've gotten an email from another superintendent in a different county. Like Jasper County has been doing a nice job helping us. They're still supporting us. Other counties have said, we're not contact tracing anymore. If you're positive, go home. Other than that, you're on your own. Like you don't send anybody home. And that's not Jasper County, but other counties have started that. And so that's going to change your quarantine numbers. You're gonna have a lot less kids quarantined, but then you're probably going to end up with more people
Like
positive.
school,
Yeah.
Well, and that's just the vast numbers of, don't you think?
Yeah,
That's just-
they're just like there's community spread everywhere. So it's just send the positive ones home and keep teaching school. That's not what Jasper County's doing, but that there are counties around us who have just, I don't know, almost feels like they've just thrown up their hands and said, we can't do this anymore. We can't keep up. And so just do the best you can. So, I mean, again, thank you to Jasper County for supporting us.
Yeah, I guess my main question, thinking about the stuff last week, going back to Jason's point about health and safety and education, you guys might have a different opinion, but like in this building, what's our number one job here? What's our main reason for being here is to teach kids. Yes, you want to keep them health and safety. We're trying to do the best we can, but we got to keep these kids learning the best we can. And I don't know what the best way is, but I think as far as priorities, it's, I don't know if you call them even, but I might even put education up a little bit, but that's just my opinion.
When we met last week, we, the three of us, and then Mr. Vaughn and Mr. Hasselbrink and Mr. Russell, and we actually used a guidance document that they created, Colfax Mango, that was really, really good. And they had, we were supposed to kind of measure things based on educational value, health and safety value, and then community impact value. And so we talked through several, because was there another one too that I'm not thinking of, guys? I thought there were like 4. But anyway, there were like 4 or 3 or 4 kind of categories. And it depends on like what lens are you using to measure which one's the best. There is no, if there was one best, everyone would do that thing, but there's not one best. So just exactly like what Corey's saying, if you're looking at it from the lens of a parent who's, you know, a single parent and has to go to work, well, theirs is the community lens. I need daycare. My kid has to go to school. If you're looking at it from a teacher who's really worried about their health, they're looking at for the health and safety. If you're looking at it from an educational and we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get these kids in school, we got to teach them stuff. That one, it just really depends on what lens you look through. So I mean, we all come with our own bias. So there is no perfect answer.
Well, and I think it's important regarding this letter too. You know, we sent a survey out to the community and the staff, and it's important for us to see both sides, not, and understanding that, you know, not one side can be the deciding factor, but it's important for us to know what everybody is, because I mean, this is a business too. We're working for the community. I mean, it's not the only deciding factor, no, but it is important for us to see it.
Right. So to bring us back, because I mean, this is literally like everyday conversation. Like, I mean, same song, millionth verse. We just need to know, like the 3 of us, Jason, Rob, and I need to know, do we support hybrid for a longer, like up through Christmas? Do we want to just wait and see how it goes until Thanksgiving and then, you know, tell parents on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, oh, by the way, we're going to go hybrid on when you come back, or we're going to be back in person? I just need guidance. And if I'm getting the sense that you really just kind of like this, because it does give us a guidance document, but it's not pigeonholing us, because it really does depend on what staff are gone. Because we know that really in every district, every school leader I've talked to, it's never one of them has shut down because of kids being sick. It's always been staffing. It's always been a staffing issue. And so knowing that, we just know that it's probably with us, if we have to shut down and go completely virtual, or if one grade level or the other has to go virtual, it's going to be because it's a staffing issue. So if you don't want a rubric that's exactly spelled out like the other one, I'll just continue to use this one, the return to learn guidance from the Department of Public Health. And then we'll just have to have a constant communication. Like when Rob finds out, like, I don't have staff to keep my building open, we may be able to give parents a heads up, but we may not. It may be like a snow day, like, sorry, school's closed tomorrow. I mean, if that's the guidance that you guys are giving me.
I think it sounds like we need to probably make some adjustments to hybrid, because I think in reality, we're going to be hybrid for a while. There's just a lot of, I mean, it's very unlikely that our positivity is going to go down drastically.
Right.
Between
Christmas or Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
And Thanksgiving's next week. And
Right.
I'm with Kim. I think that, you know, we're looking at past Christmas for sure. I just don't see it changing.
I think we probably are too, but I guess coming back to your question, is it easier to say middle of December, positivity rate's down, things are great, you know, is it easy enough to say, well, we're gonna go to Christmas, but now things are calmed down, is it easy enough to flip the switch to come back to school?
Yes.
Rather than, I mean, obviously going to hybrid's harder. Is it just as hard to go back to full in person? If we were to say on Friday, well, next Tuesday we might come back to full in school. Is that a bigger deal than going on?
Personally, I think there's a lot to all of it. So I'm being very cautious when I say that. I would find it, without asking teachers, I would find it easier to say that I planned a hybrid. Let's say I planned a week's worth of my hybrid. So I really have 2 days of lessons planned, 3 days of lessons, however we want to plan it out there. I've got, let's say just 3 for this example. And then we come back, well, at least I got a day's worth of lessons, so I can keep rolling versus if I have, you know, if I'm, you know, planning, if there's a lot in the hybrid, I think, because if you're planning normal lessons daily, you're not planning for as much for a day when they're at home, you know, to do. So that's just my gut feel right now. I'm not sure. I didn't really quite think about it that way. So, I mean, being hybrid and then boom, we wake up in the morning and COVID just falls off the planet, then great, we're just back in school another roll. I mean, I think it'd be, you
Good
know,
problem to have.
And to me, I think the holidays land, most people, I mean, you look at that decision, so if you're Thanksgiving, you're dealing with 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Even if it dropped in there somewhere,
Right.
I don't know the benefit of bringing everybody back for 4 or 5, even 6
In
school
person.
days.
Mhm.
Then we're back to Christmas and those numbers could change, you know, I
For
mean,
sure.
it seems to me it's great if it drops. We're at least in a good place for a while. For this is 6/12,
Yeah.
and it'll change it. I think our teachers' mindset's probably a little better as they're, well, what's going to happen? I think it's a whole lot better because then what would happen if we went back in and then next thing you know, we're coming back off break or whatever. Now we're virtual. That jump is the jump that is going to be really tough for kids.
Yeah.
anytime
I think
we're
our
virtual is
team-
gonna be a tough one, I think.
Kids
I
would not
agree.
deal with that very well.
I
So
agree.
while you're in hybrid, they're getting here every other day. They're feeling like some normalcy. I think our teachers are getting their feet under us. It's easier for us because just the whole technology with middle high, so I'm looking at it a different lens.
Mhm.
I don't know that the numbers will drop, but if they did, even in that 3 weeks, aren't you better just writing this out and seeing what, you know, it's like John said, it could drop in Baxter for 2 days at 8, and we wake up the next day, it's 20. I mean,
Right.
it seemed that the county number has stayed pretty consistent now for about 2 weeks. And whether you believe that number or not, it's pretty consistent. So that would just be my recommendation, really talking about. The only thing I don't like is let's reevaluate every 5 days. Let's reevaluate every
That's
4
too
days.
much on the
That's a
parents.
lot on teachers. to
And it's a
do.
lot on parents.
It's also not very
Right, I
realistic
agree.
if we're looking at, I mean, if you,
Look at
right,
2-week average.
right, well, and if you if you need to isolate for 14 days or you stay out for 10 days, why are you reevaluating within the middle of it? That doesn't make any sense to me either within a 5-day period, so I wouldn't be in favor of that, but.
So
Because unfortunately with the holiday, I think maybe you guys have all said this, but just, so we have a holiday coming up and we know that there's gonna be people that,
Mingling.
yeah, there's just gonna be coming together of people. So then there's 14 days and then all of a sudden you're
In Christmas.
only a week away from
Right.
Christmas, so what's the point, you know, I mean, on
Right.
some level, of just these holidays probably.
It's more than even Thanksgiving because it's so prominent right now. Everybody's kind of saying, hey, let's be safe at Thanksgiving. Well, you give kids 2.5 weeks at Christmas and college kids back. And I mean, that one concerns me way more than Thanksgiving. Now, those numbers will take care of themselves, but that one, I'd be pretty cautious when we hit just making sure, because that's where I think, just even in those college kids coming back, and that is concerning to me personally, Christmas more than Thanksgiving. People going and out, and then we're back trying to get school started, and maybe it'll work. That one just is a concern to me.
So I want to know just from you guys, or you two especially, so we're at hybrid, like, let's say we just say we're going to stick with hybrid till Christmas, you know, reevaluate, whatever. What do we do to go to virtual? Like, I know none of us want that, that's not ideal, but if I'm going to have to like make this call, are we just saying, I just keep in touch with public health, and if they say, okay, now we really are at a healthcare capacity concern, I need you to go virtual, that's, and we're still over 20% in our county, that's the metric we're gonna use, because this is just suggested. But I would really like your guys' suggestions.
So if we go all virtual, are the teachers still come in here,
We left it with,
presenting here?
I think that
I think we haven't decided that. We've talked about both ways. Like, it could be that they would come here. Originally, we had talked about that with hybrid or virtual, we would expect staff to come to the building and teach. But now just recently, the governor has said anyone that can work remotely should work remotely if it's possible. So then that's like, well, that kind of shifted that, because we've even had that conversation even in our office. I've asked our 2 office ladies, they're gonna take turns, one or the other being in the building, and the other one's gonna work from home that day, the opposite day, because that's just one less person in our building that they don't have to be in there. So, I mean, it's like teachers, if kids are here, we can't send teachers home, but extra staff can. So I would think that if some teachers would prefer to be here just because their stuff is here, but I'd say that would be, per the governor's recommendations, we could have them work from home.
I would have teachers that would prefer to be here
Mhm.
because, they can collaborate, they have their stuff, what we learned in March was we're probably still having a virtual where we're still trying to put together packets and figure out ways to get them home and stuff. So I believe I would have teachers that would wholeheartedly appreciate that, like to be able to be here, barring the building being closed down. But I also would probably have a couple of teachers that have their own kids now at home,
Mhm.
that they would have to be home. They couldn't teach from school every day because their kids are at home.
Right.
So they would make a request to be at home and still teach, and that's acceptable as well, but, but I know that, I had teachers all spring that were coming into the building, can I get in there and make some copies?
Right.
So let's get, and that, we were supposed to be locked down then, but there was no other way around. They
Right,
don't
right.
have that ability to get resources out if they don't,
Right.
if they can't come here, so.
So I think we could probably leave that a little bit
But we're getting better. at it.
flexible. Yeah. Because, we also have to remember that we're an employer. So a lot of employers are trying to work with their employees, like if they need to work from home, they are. So, we also have to be respectful to, our teachers that have little kids.
Mhm.
So, my kid's old enough that he can be home, but
I have
You know,
wondered
you-
about that burden for teachers who
yeah.
have kids that are at school on different days
Mhm.
than when the teacher's at school.
Yeah, even mine, I have to like text him, like, did you do your assignments for class? And like, have you checked in, and he's a high schooler. So I don't know if that's better or worse, trying to leave a high schooler home alone, but it is hard. But and not even nearly as hard for me as it would be for like Mr. Hasselbrink has little kids, or, teachers that have little kids. It's just a lot harder. So I think if we can be a flexible employer as well, but hopefully we don't get to that we hopefully we can just stay
So
hybrid.
maybe can we talk a little bit about contacting the Department of Ed about what is that process when you have to contact the Department of Ed to request a waiver or what?
Right, so
to
you
be
go
approved?
onto the CASA, the portal, like it's a thing where we fill out reports and stuff. And so there's just a form on there that we would fill out. We put in our percentage and why we want to go virtual, and then we just submit it. And then
Fast process.
what was that?
It's a pretty fast process.
And they even
But you
say
can take
within
up to
48
5
hours.
days, isn't it?
Yeah, you can
5
take 5
days.
days because you have to be virtual. You have like 50% being in person, 50%.
of your time in person, so you could go 5 days on virtual before your approval comes and still be okay.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying, you could put in for it today, go virtual, and hear back 3 days later and you're fine.
And
You're not breaking.
Your
any
first
rules.
48 hours, I think they say
2
like
days.
you have 2 days that you can just put in for emergency and just put it in, and that you're automatically granted those.
Got it.
And so they really, unless you don't meet the criteria, so like right now, if we wanted to go virtual, Jasper County is over 20%, so we could put that in and apply for it. Whereas like in other districts, like when Des Moines was trying to go virtual before and they were far below 20%, they were getting denied because they weren't at 20%. So, but Jasper County is.
So this is probably more one of those next day thing, kind of, not the 48 hour, it's gonna be because that's obviously a last resort. kind of
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
And would this be more maybe even by building?
Yeah, you can do it by building. You can even do it by grade level. Like you could send home the 6th grade if we won't. You can send home the 8th grade if they happen to have like a huge outbreak, and just 8th grade was remote and everybody else was in school or whatever. You can be as pinpointed or as general, but in order to shut down a whole building, I believe it's a whole building or a whole district, you have to put in the waiver.
So where are we, what's our percentage today?
In Baxter,
Yeah.
yeah, I can look really quick.
That's another question too. So do we look
Are you looking at the one
county?
on the, are you thinking of the one by zip code that we see sometimes
Yeah,
on the
so-
public health website?
Yep, so Becky sent it today, and today Jasper County as a county is at 21.1. And this was as of 2:30 today. And Baxter is at 13.2 for the 14-day average. And let's see, the total positive cases since March is 86. And last week we had 81, so that's a change of 5 in a week's time. We've had 5 more positive cases since November 10th.
So I guess that was a question I was thinking of earlier. You maybe ask her, what number do we pay attention to? Do we pay attention to Baxter or Jasper County? I mean, what do you,
Yeah,
I mean,
the return to learn plan specifies county, but I mean,
if they have.
it gives you some leeway there too, which I think that's good that we can at least look at backs, you know.
Because there's a couple zip codes in there, they're 30-some%, which
Yeah,
obviously
Yeah.
that's.
Awful.
Yeah, we've got
Skews
one
everything.
that's,
I
yeah.
mean, there's your 20.
We've got one that's today, or their 14-day average is 39.1. So that's, but that's also well, I guess we can say it's public, it's Sully. And so there's, they only have 89 positive cases total, and we have 86. So it just is like, they just happen to have a whole bunch,
Like I said,
like
that's
this
what happened
week.
to Baxter a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Right.
right?
Ours have kind of built slowly over time, and
Mhm.
theirs is like boom.
And Kim, I don't know if you have access to different, like more
No,
data than
No.
this. You can't be my inside source,
no, no.
especially not on public. She is not giving us any insert information, I promise.
No trade deals going on here.
Yeah.
Like I
So,
said, the question I would have is, can we go off of Baxter's data, or do we have to use county, or?
well, I think this is up to us.
Yeah, we can
You guys can decide
We
that.
have the
That's
authority
local
to do it.
controlled
Right.
right there.
So that's tricky. So it's been below 15 for a few days now. Do we go back to school? You know, that's the things that can change so fast. I mean, obviously we don't want to change every 5 days, but that's just the questions I think that,
Mhm.
you know, some people wonder why we are going hybrid for 3 weeks, or are we going back to school right now? Well, it's a lot more factors, and
There's a lot of factors that go into that, I think, with holidays.
but like I say, it stays
Yeah.
at 13% for the next week and a half, and what do you do? I mean, if we're going by the rubric, we're back in school,
That's why the rubric is hard to,
or the guideline thing.
yeah, the guideline, because there's so many different factors.
I think one thing we should think about, not that I'm saying, like, I completely agree with what you're saying, Corey. I do think we have to think about that we are Baxter School, but we have a lot of kids from Mingo, we have a lot of kids from Colfax, we have a lot of kids from Newton. So we do draw kids from, so unless we want to check, you know, what those percentages, and we have, you know, parents that work in Des Moines. So, I mean, there's no good answer. There really isn't. You know, we've got staff that live, like, I don't even live in Jasper County. I live in Marshall County. And, you know, Rob lives in Polk. So, like, his numbers, you know, so I think it's just hard to set. And, you know, I think, yeah, if you guys want to use Baxter as the percentage, fine. That's great. I mean, whatever. I just kind of want to know what's our target we're going to use, at least as far as the percentage, and then I can communicate with Becky and Christina about, you know, healthcare capacity concerns and.
I'm just trying to think of questions that.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure,
we're
for
gonna-
sure. Because you know that's going to be discussed all over Facebook as soon as this meeting, it's probably being discussed right now, I don't know. So, I mean, people have opinions, obviously, everyone has an opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, the healthcare capacity concerns, I know it's an issue. I mean, we have daily meetings right now with Iowa's like towards the top 2 or 3 in the country with COVID cases. And when healthcare providers are allowed to work sick and take care of healthy COVID healthy patients in long-term care centers, that's concerning. So we do have healthcare capacity issue right now. That's an issue. I mean, I know we're not in long-term care, we're in school, but that's what's happening right now in healthcare. As far as when we go to virtual though, I mean, as a parent, I don't want that. I think we go with this when we're at 20%. Probably in Baxter, not just in the county, because otherwise we'd be online right now. And then we wouldn't be following our own guidance. I would rather have the kids in school as long as possible. They're gonna learn more. I mean, I said that earlier, they're gonna learn more from their teachers, even if it's 2 or 3 days a week, than if they're online.
So I think it's probably more to do with staffing than
Right.
number of cases.
I could see
So-
that being the case, we'd go to virtual
Is the staffing?
with the staffing more so than the positivity rate or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So if we have, I mean, do we need to make those decisions being that specific with staffing too for, I mean, if we have 50% of our middle school and high school teachers out, then we wouldn't even, it would have to be before that. I mean, and we're not gonna have 24 hours notice necessarily when that would happen.
No.
So, I mean, how would we handle that? Do we just send a,
I would communicate by email, by social media, that due to whatever decision it is, we will begin virtual tomorrow until we hear differently.
and I think that's almost something that has to be communicated with our families right now is, here we are hybrid, we want everybody to social distance and wear masks and wash your hands and don't be with a whole bunch of people at the holidays. And with the idea, we want to make sure kids are in school. And we also have the possibility that if there's a staffing issue, we're going to be virtual. So you have to be prepared for it, and it sucks.
Yeah, so I can definitely send that out. Like if we decide we're gonna stay hybrid for, till whenever, I'll send out a message to everybody, just kind of outlining all this. Like, just know that we're gonna be hybrid for, till Thanksgiving or till Christmas or whatever we decide. And then just know though that due to staffing issues, we could have to switch to virtual at a moment's notice because we're so small that like, we have, like you said, we have 2 bus drivers out. We can't do it, or we have no lunch ladies. We can't have school, so people just have to be prepared that it would just be just like a snow day. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think we need to discuss through Christmas, not Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is next week. There's
That's,
no-
well,
there's
I
no
mean,
way
we're
to-
beating around the
Yeah.
bush, and I think everybody's more or less
Like
thinking it's Christmas.
January.
I mean, to me, it's like, let's just say it and be
Yeah.
done
Yeah,
with
I
it.
agree with you, John.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So hybrid till Christmas, unless we have to go virtual.
Right.
And then we will go back to normal late start Mondays, and we'll go with the every other day plan. So group A, group B, Jason and Rob, we're gonna meet tomorrow. Well, the admin team's gonna meet tomorrow and hammer out exactly, we're gonna put a calendar and just actually write like group A, group B, group A, group B. And then they're gonna talk with each other and look at the schedules and figure out the kids, because there may be some possibilities of some kids switching, groups just to even things out. But if that help, like if a family's, agreeable to it or whatever, if we can make it work better for teachers, like for the classroom distribution. And we'll plan this through Christmas, but it will, like we've talked several times, that it'll start after Thanksgiving. So the Monday after Thanksgiving till whatever day Christmas break starts, we'll be on kind of the new hybrid plan.
Okay.
And then it could have to switch to virtual if we don't have staff. We don't anticipate it going back to face though. I mean, if there was just magic, great, but don't anticipate that. And then we'll revisit probably at the December board meeting, because we'll be pretty darn close to the end of this thing, and we'll make plans for January. I mean, maybe it's a month to month, we just monitor it. But, and so we won't put together any specific rubric, but we'll watch the Baxter percentages. If Baxter gets over 20%, and then we know there's healthcare concerns, but we'll talk with Jasper County. So we'll use Baxter's percentage. So, you know, if teachers or the BEA, I mean, wants to know our rubric, that's what it is, 20% at Baxter. And then, but depends on, but the asterisk is, but it depends on
Good
staffing
considerations.
considerations.
And I don't know, I mean, 20% still we may, it's not that we will, right?
That's what it says.
Yeah.
May.
May, I mean, so,
I mean, my personal opinion is, even if we do reach that point, if we could still stay hybrid, my preference would be to
We're
stay
already there.
right,
stay hybrid as long as possible
Right.
and not do virtual. No, I
Yeah.
mean, we know we can, but it's not ideal
right.
for anybody.
So if we get to like,
I guess it'd be nice to
Staffing.
know that information from,
Mhm.
you know, if you track that, so it's going up or it's staying
Yeah.
basically even, it's like, well, okay, you
Yeah.
know, we're doing okay or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
so. But I don't wanna, I guess personally, I don't wanna say, as soon as Baxter gets to 20%, that we're gonna go virtual, that's like, no, that, you know,
So that's why I was thinking more of a staff thing rather than
then
percentage.
right,
And can you like say say it's one section of second grade, can we just say that one section of second grade is home?
Yeah, you
I
can.
mean, or this whole second grade, however it might work, but rather than saying all of elementary or all of high school. Or, like Rob said, though, high school might be a little bigger because you got kids going to different classrooms with different teachers. If one teacher's out, well, that might affect 3 grade levels.
Mhm.
Do that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we want to stay hybrid as long as possible unless we have staffing issues.
right.
Are you
And
guys
if-
comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with whatever decisions made, probably. I mean, if you're, if you're sending them back to school tomorrow, I'd have a little bit of a problem.
No,
So
no.
anything that you're doing,
Yeah, we heard that ground over there.
I was just, it was a hypothetical. I was
Yeah.
throwing it out there.
listen,
Just throwing out the questions that are,
nope, I get it.
that are coming.
Yeah, I think we need to be conscious of health situations that are closest to us, you know, that affect us, but we know that, I mean, we can only control what we can control, so we have to watch those numbers. We have to make decisions as they're needed, but yeah, keeping kids here and as long as we can is what we committed to as a district back in the summer. You know,
Right.
we wanted to have our kids, we went masks, you know. I mean, that was the one decision probably that was kept us here as long as it is, honestly. I mean, we were in masks and that's helping, you know, and we're doing things, but
Can you say that again louder?
yeah, well, I don't know who's listening, but we're in masks. And I mean, I heard,
I think everybody's dropped off by now.
Oh, we still have a handful on here.
True.
our kids that, and at least down in our building, I can speak, our kids and staff are committed to masks, so they're doing a great job, you know. I mean, so.
Yeah, as far as around here, outside of lunch, there's little pockets, but even with that 15 minutes, I mean, in 6 feet, the only way we would contact trace now, anybody really is about lunch. A little bit of PE, I had a problem that's getting fixed or weight room, but now practices could become an issue for us. And that's, I think, one of the reasons there's been some frustration about junior high, but in the long run, the idea is we need to keep kids in school the best we can. If you start to open up, now you're looking at massive contact tracing over a team and you know, but yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna use staffing as our main, we're gonna be hybrid and use staffing as our main indicator. You got all that, Julie?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
But you guys didn't know the staffing
Yeah.
situation more than, so.
I mean, I can keep you guys, you know, in the loop. And if things start to all of a sudden look like, oh gosh, this is not working, obviously I'll keep you posted. So, Okay, well, I appreciate your guys' feedback, and I appreciate the BEA, bringing us this letter so that we can really have this in-depth conversation and really hash it out. So, and publicly, so that ones that are on here listening could listen to it. So, all right. So much for principal's reports.
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
Anything else on the principal's reports?
I don't remember.
Okay, we'll wrap that up.
The next item is the SBRC application for 2020.
So Julie, do they have to like read this out loud? Is there like a
No, I'll take care of it. It just, they need to approve the fact that we're gonna go to the SBRC and ask them for on-time funding. And that dollar amount is the most that we can ask for, and I just need to include that dollar amount in the minutes when I send it to the DE.
and then we just link it to our DE report?
What does on-time funding mean? As opposed to like
So,
funding or something?
Well, I think it's so because we have all these kids that we have to teach them now,
Okay,
so we need the money now.
got it. Okay.
Their funding always comes
Because,
a
yeah,
a
right,
year
okay.
late
So
based
that's what
on
it means,
enrollment.
just so you get the money.
Is it like a percentage of what that total, what is it now, 6,400?
Yeah, and I think
Percentage of
It's the whole
the
amount.
whole thing?
Yep. It's the amount of the increase times the amount per student. So we're, I believe we had actually like 24 kids or whatever, and then, and so we're actually asking for 128,000 and some change for that. We could have asked for open enrollment as well, because we did have a little bit of an increase in open enrollment but we also had a decrease, and so the difference did not provide us with an increase, if you know what if you know what I mean. So then that's zero, because we had an increase in the out because people moved into our district but have never gone to our school and wanted to stay going to the other school. So all we're asking for is the increase in resident students.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve an SBRC application to the DE for the 2020 year due to our increased certified enrollment?
So moved. Second. Kim and
Kim and
Colette.
Colette.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So the next item is our K-12 LAU plan for serving English language learners.
And this is just the same plan that we've had for a while. It's if we had some English language learners, this is how we would handle it, but we don't have any. But it's still something we have to approve every year. So if we ever have any, we'll have a plan in place.
Any board members have any questions on that? We have a motion to approve our K-12 LAU plan for servicing English language learners.
So moved, Debbie.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Personnel. Looks like we have an Aaron Shanks that wants to be a volunteer high school girls basketball coach, pending completion of his coaching authorization. Anybody have any questions or comments on that?
I didn't know about it, so you kind of looked at me like,
Oh, no, I just wondered if you had any more comments.
I don't, because I didn't know. I don't know anything about that.
You don't?
No.
Well, do you want to table it?
No.
Are you okay
I
with
don't-
it?
I don't know who knows that information. Do you?
I
don't
know that Padge talked to me and Julie, I think, and said, can you add that? But I didn't know he didn't talk to you. But we, I
You
mean,
can table it.
We can table it.
Well, the problem is if you table it now, I don't know when he's completed. I just don't know. I don't know.
Can you approve it over email
I don't know.
after you talk to them?
can we approve it over email? Can we say pending conversation with athletic director or something like that?
Absolutely.
Okay, we do that. Okay,
Recommend that he be approved.
You could say you could say board's approval pending approval of the athletic director.
You can approve it, and if you pass it, I mean, that's if you get guys that the coach recommends. I'm not trying to say no to that, I didn't know.
But it should go through the.
it should go through you, yeah.
Okay,
I'll put it pending AD's approval.
Yeah, I'll second it, Debbie.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Pose same sign. Motion's approved. Facilities and grounds, so you kind of got an update a little bit.
Yeah. And like always,
Prior.
they stole in my superintendent's report,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
which is,
So
it's fine.
move on to superintendent report.
Yeah, and I added on there at the last minute COVID FEMA grant, but then Julie stole that, so like,
Sorry.
oh, that's all right. So our COVID
Tell us about
update.
the emergency.
Yeah, so, and then that's kind of crazy. So I met with the Jasper County, we're working on just kind of finalizing that, and we were supposed to meet, and then that got postponed. And so we're gonna do a Zoom this Friday and try and wrap up a few more things with it. We laugh about, like, we plan for all these crazy scenarios that are probably never gonna happen, but we didn't plan for worldwide pandemic is not a tab in the plan. So we've talked through some of that, and then we're just trying to wrap up some of the, like, if there was like a major catastrophe and we had to go to DMAC in Newton, like, how does that work and where do we go and that sort of thing. So we're just kind of finishing up a few things with that. And then we just talked about that we probably should put in a tab in there that's like pandemic, because if it ever happens again, which hopefully it doesn't, at least there could be some information for people that it wouldn't have to start from square one like all the rest of us. Like, we all started at zero, but who knows? It could be far enough down the road that, or it might not be airborne, or it might be who knows what. So anyway, that we're gonna just add a little bit to that. So there's not really anything you have to do with that. That's just FYI. And otherwise, really kind of like the same with Jason and Rob. We're just all COVID all the time. There was something I thought of I was going to tell you. God, I lost it. I don't know. It was, I'm sure, something really exciting and monumental.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
I haven't logged in at all to the convention stuff. Was that,
I think I haven't
is
logged
it
out.
over?
No,
I think you have it for like a year or something
Yeah,
too.
no.
Is that right, Julie? Don't they have it for like a year or 6 months or something that they can watch the convention?
I don't know. I didn't know that there was a time limit. I just know that it is recorded. We had to pay as if they were watching it live, so it's no big deal. But I don't know if you guys got your receipts or not, but I did register you like yesterday or the day before. I can't remember.
Okay, thank you.
We got them.
Which,
Yeah.
I guess Julie and I are gonna go to online, but a financial conference. So it's put on through UNI, and there's different tracks. I've gone to the last couple of years, and it's like you can take different, like, I'm doing the financial, like finances 101, and she's on like finances 4,000 or whatever. But there's different ones, and there's like mental health ones and all sorts of ones you can choose. But just like per my goal, I want to learn more and more about school finance. So I'm doing that one, the school finance track. I can't remember the dates. It's in December, so it's probably before our next meeting. So.
I think it's 16th and 17th.
Oh, so it'll be like fresh in our minds when I come back to the board meeting then. So, yeah, so I guess that's about it.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Kim?
Do we have a second?
Second, Debbie.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks to everybody who tuned in. I'm gonna shut her down.
Thanks for bringing that over.
You bet.
How much were them chairs, Rob?